Did you guys ever watch Cheers, Jesse? You know that show?
I watched like the beginning intro of it, and then I would tune out.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Cheers was like a really popular, famous show, and those of you guys that are like me, you're 50, you guys know that this was like a really popular show back in, probably like the late 80s or whatever.
Let's do it. Scott Kaplan for your Friday night right now.
Don't get it twisted, homegirl. Yo, what is going on? It's Friday night. Scott Kaplan taken to the airwaves of 710 ESPN Los Angeles. What is up, man? Friday night. Going to be on the full time, man, from 7 o'clock at night. Well, we're getting on at 7:19. All the way till 10 o'clock tonight. A friend of mine said to me, he goes, hey, what are you up to tonight? I said, I'm working. He said, till what time? I said, 10. He said, what is with you? What are you, in high school? What are you working till? What are you working the mall?
Scott Kaplan holds it down at night.
Yeah, I am holding it down at night. No, I'm not working in the mall. I'm working from the crib, dog. I used to work in the mall though, back in the old days. Back when Cheers was a hot happening show. Used to work at a store called the Chess King, and let me tell you something, man. I was looking money. Okay, I was rocking some Z Cavaricci parachute pants.
Was this when you had the ponytail, by the way?
Yeah, no, it was pre-ponytail. No, pre-ponytail, dude. Pre-ponytail.
I'm going to need to hear more about this ponytail.
Ponytail came later. Yeah, ponytail came later. Rocking some Z Cavaricci's old school parachute pants. Then I was putting on like a tuxedo shirt. And then a sport jacket that was double-breasted but only came to the waist. And then a super skinny tie. And then like a cheesy fake gold tie ring thing up at the top of the tuxedo shirt. Now that I'm mentioning it all, I feel like such a moron. Not only did I look like an idiot, but now I sound like I'm letting you know that I look like an idiot. So, yeah, there you go. It's Friday night, and I'm holding it down. Let me tell you something right now. So listen, we are on the airwaves of 710, but tonight, we are streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. Find us on all of these platforms at ESPN LA, ESPN Los Angeles. You can at ESPN Los Angeles on Twitter. If you like the intimacy of us hanging out together, I'm in my house, you're in your place. If you're on the radio in your car, when you get out of your car, put us on YouTube and come join us. And then join the live chat on YouTube. I'm telling you right now, I am determined to build the ESPN LA YouTube channel. Now I say this, and Greg Bergman, the assistant to the assistant to the assistant program director at ESPN 710, he's freaking out right now. No, Kaplan, you tell them to listen to the radio. We're a radio station. Yes, we are. But we are a multi-platform media brand. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to do this long on YouTube. I'm not going to do this with 11 of you. 1,100, we can talk. 11, not happening. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, let me say this. I today had to go back on YouTube, as a matter of fact, and watch Hank Aaron's 715th home run. I do not consider myself a baseball historian. I know, you may, but I don't, okay? I don't consider myself a baseball historian. So Henry Aaron in 1974, by the way, I was 4 years old, okay? In 1974, Henry Aaron hits this 715th home run, becomes the all-time home run king at the time, breaks Babe Ruth's home run record. I mean, it's like a monster deal in America at the time. And I'm not telling you this because I remember anything about it. I don't. Okay? I remembered very little of the details. In fact, I'll say this. You know what I remember about Hank Aaron's 715th home run? The two dudes that jumped out of the stands, and somehow, I don't know how, because in today's day and age, those two guys would have been taken to the ground, not by security, by other players. These two 17-year-old kids jump out of the stands and round second into third with Hank Aaron. It's the most amazing thing. Like, that to me is what I remember about that moment. So I had to go back today and I had to watch it. And what's really interesting is how much talk there was today about what Hank Aaron meant. He wasn't Jackie Robinson, but in terms of breaking the color barrier, being credited for breaking the color barrier, but what he had to go through in his life as a black man at that period of time, chasing that record. I mean, really an amazing thing. And I've enjoyed listening today to a lot of the history of Hank Aaron. But I want to play for you because this is interesting for a lot of you guys. I'll tell you guys a little behind the curtains here tonight. Every night I tell you that I'm broadcasting from my home. Jesse and Curtis are in the studio at ESPN LA, downtown LA, right across the street from Staples Center. I'm at home. My 20-year-old son came home, and I know there's no way this kid who's sitting in my studio with me tonight, this young man, there's no way that he's ever heard this before. Henry Aaron's 715th home run. Do you have any idea, by the way, I'm just throwing it out there rhetorically. You know who Henry Aaron hit this home run against, right? Don't act like you know, by the way, okay? Because you don't. Okay, the old timers, you guys do, but all you young kids, you don't. Justin, do you know? Okay, of course not. My son, I'm asking my son. Against the Dodgers. He hit the home run against the Dodgers, which means Vin Scully called this home run of Henry Aaron. And it's fascinating to listen to Vin call the home run because it's not just look at the home run, look at the ball over the left field wall. It's not like that. It's so much more about what's happening culturally in America at the moment. So Curtis, if you could, tee it up for us. Play the Vin Scully call of the Henry Aaron 715th record-breaking home run.
1 ball and no strikes. Aaron waiting. The outfield deep and straight away. Fastball is a high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone. What a marvelous moment for baseball. What a marvelous moment for Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What a marvelous moment for the country and the world. A black man is getting a standing ovation in the Deep South for breaking a record of an all-time baseball idol. And it is a great moment for all of us, and particularly for Henry Aaron, who was met at home plate not only by every member of the Braves, but by his father and mother. As Aaron circled the bases, the Dodgers on the infield shook his hand, and that was a memorable moment. Aaron is being mobbed by photographers. He is holding his right hand high in the air, and for the first time in a long time, that poker face of Aaron shows the tremendous strain and relief of what it must have been like to live with for the past several months.
Wow, isn't that cool? Isn't that really cool to listen to? I mean, it sounds so ancient. It sounds so tinny. It sounds so staticky. You know what I mean? And listening to Vin Scully in 1974 describing not just the moment of the home run itself. Forget about the home run. It didn't matter. What mattered is the country was following this. Everybody was in on it. And there was so much tension around it because there were people that were cheering him on and there were people that absolutely hated it because there was racism, man. Way worse back then than it is now. Although, unfortunately, I say it like that, you know, and unfortunately, I'm watching what's going on around the NFL right now, and I am just absolutely shocked that there has been one minority man hired as an NFL head coach in all of these coaching hirings. He's not a black guy, he's a Lebanese guy. So, you know, we're going to talk tonight about this Rooney Rule and how it hasn't worked. I'll get there later on, but think about what Vin Scully was saying back then in 1974. What a moment for the city of Atlanta. What a moment for the state of Georgia. What a moment for the country. And he says it out loud. A black man has just done this. Like, that was the story in 1974. So it's fascinating to me, again, someone who doesn't necessarily consider himself a baseball historian, to go back and watch it. And for all you young guys out there, Jesse and Curtis, I'll include you guys. Although, Jesse, I'm watching you right now on the live stream being presented by Puente Hills Toyota. You were rocking 2 masks 5 seconds ago. You've taken off both masks. What's happening?
Well, for the best sound quality,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to not wear the masks.
Yeah.
And I like my show to sound really good. Mm-hmm. So I take the precautions when we're on the air to put on the masks.
I got to get my plastic mask. I got an Andy Reid. I got a big old Andy Reid plastic mask. You know, I got one of these. You should get one of these, dog. Yeah.
Oh.
Take a look at this.
Oh, wow.
Now, for those of you that are listening on radio, you can't see this. But for those of you that are watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch, you see? Look see, I got one of these big old Andy Reid.
Just send it over here. I'll wear that.
How cool?
One.
Is this thing dope or what?
It just needs some headphones and a little mic, and it's perfect. I don't even have to use the microphone. I can just sit down and start talking.
All right, so Jesse and Curtis, I'm going to ask both of you guys, okay? You guys are both much, much younger dudes. How much do you know about Henry Aaron? And when you hear that, how cool is that, right? To hear what was going on long before you guys were born, by the way, 1974.
Before I was even thought of being a child.
Yeah.
Or a
baby.
baby.
What'd you think, man?
So I knew basically that he was the all-time home runs leader. I never really knew anything past that. Once I started going into sports, I kind of, read up about him a little bit. But today I definitely learned a lot more. I knew, you kind of expect things, especially in the 70s and back then when you're, black and you're going through these issues. But the fact that Vince Scully called you play where he says it. It's people are celebrating a person of color in a place where color was discriminated.
Right. I mean, the way he said it, a black man in the deep South and people on their feet cheering.
And the two fans who ran and were hugging him. Imagine everyone who was there who saw the people running towards him and had no idea what they were going to do.
Yeah, and I had to look those guys up today, too, because I was like, who are those guys? I know that I've heard the story of those two guys, and you can Google them. All you have to do is Google the two guys that ran on the field with Henry Aaron, and then you can read all about these guys. And they were 17 years old, and they jumped onto the field, and I'm telling you, it was crazy.
That wouldn't happen in today's
No.
They get tackled by, first base.
No doubt. Curtis, how about you, man? I mean, you're also much younger. Did you know a lot about Henry Aaron? When you hear this news today, impactful in any way?
This is really impactful, but all I knew, he was a slugger, he was African-American, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to play some of that sound today, because that's all you know. I mean, really, like the younger generation, they don't know anything. I know even just a little bit more, because I was 4 years old at the time, and then, you grow up, Henry Aaron. I remember the first time I met Henry Aaron at an all-star game, came and sat down, and I got a chance to interview him, and I was about, 29, 30 years old, and I knew the superstar, the cultural icon that he was, and I just was too young and too green to even really appreciate the moment. And I don't think I had at the time one of those disposable cardboard cameras that you would have to take to the drugstore to, develop the film.
I didn't even
have
those
one.
Things.
Yeah, I didn't even have one of those back then. Then, if I would have had an iPhone, forget it. I'd be showing you pictures today of me and Henry Aaron from 20 years ago. So, hey, listen, it's one of those deals where, I don't know about you guys, but my mother will call me, and she'll always start off like this. She'll go, hey, do you remember that girl you went to school with? And do you remember her father? I'm like, no. And my mother will go, oh, because he died. And so I didn't want to come on today, the bearer of bad news. But I think America, for the most part, today took a second to talk about what an incredible life and what an incredible career and person that Hank Aaron was. 25-time All-Star. Really? 25-time All-Star? And I know people today are having this conversation about who's the real home run king. Is it Henry Aaron or is it Barry Bonds? And for me, it's Barry Bonds. It's the one I saw. And I don't care about the steroids. He still had to put the bat on the ball. So it's an interesting night to jump onto the airwaves. Looking forward to being with everybody. Coming up, let's talk about what happened with the Lakers last night and this long road trip that they're on, the win against Milwaukee and what they've got coming up. Laker radio analyst, the one and only Michael Thompson, will join us next to get things started. It's Friday night. It's Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN.
Hey, it's Keyshawn.
You ready?
LA's mega sports lineup.
Are you ready?
On LA's mega sports station.
Start your day with me, Keyshawn, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Keyshawn, Jay Will, Zubin, and Travis Rogers. Here with you each weekday morning. Mike Greenberg, Greeny, is back on your radio from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. At 11, you loved him for years on 710. Max is back. Max Kellerman for your lunch hour. And at 1 p.m., my guys Mason and Ireland are back in middays until 4 p.m. How about a little afternoon flavor
with George Sedano and LZ Granderson.
Sedano and LZ until 7. And the LA Sports Talk Now don't stop until 10 p.m. each weeknight. Scott Kaplan holds it down at night.
The all-new 710.
Don't get it twisted, homeboy. The best sports talk in LA on 710 ESPN.
On 710 ESPN.
I had become a workaholic.
The Scott Kaplan Show on 710 ESPN.
Jesse, are you impressed with that, by the way?
Oh,
Did I
hell yeah, I'm impressed
see what I'm
by
saying,
that.
my man?
The LA Sports Talk don't stop. Now back to Scott Kaplan.
You haven't had a show on Friday that I forgot we even had Friday night.
Yeah, Friday.
Thank God it's
Friday night. Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN. Hey, listen, we're on the radio, so wherever you're at, driving around throughout LA, we are on the radio, but I'm telling you right now, you get out of your car tonight, take us inside. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. I got it up on my big screen here in the studio. I'm doing the show, and I'm watching the show, and I'm in the live chat on YouTube. I'm so
That's something that
multimedia.
Mason would be mad about, I feel.
Really?
Yeah, he's one who would want to be himself all over everywhere.
Yeah. All right, well, listen, let me tell you, what a great night. What a great night to have Michael Thompson on the radio, because tonight is the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's 81-point game 15 years ago. And so we've got a lot of Lakers stuff to talk about. I'll start right there. MT, good evening. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Good to hear from you, Scotty, my boy. Beam me up, Scotty. I'm sure you've heard that before.
I have, and I will. So, Michael, I'm just curious. I mean, give me a first thought. It's 15 years since that 81-point performance by Kobe. What do you remember?
Well, how just unstoppable he was going against the Raptors that night. They were trying everything, throwing every defender they had at him, but he got on one of his Kobe rolls, and when he gets going like that, he can get you 50 at any given time. And he got to 50, and we looked up at the clock, and we had, he's got 20-something minutes to go. How much more can he score? Can he get in the 80s? We were wondering. And is it possible that he gets to 90? And we even joked around with 100. We says, no way he's got enough time to get to 100. Can he? Unless he started just bombing threes one after the other. We were just hoping that he would get to 80 at least, so we'll be able to see someone score 80 points. And when he got to in the mid-60s, we knew only 15 points away. Oh, that was Kobe could do that in his sleep.
Yeah, and I was just looking at some of the details around this, Michael. 28 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing. You think not too many people have scored in the 20s in one quarter throughout the history of this league. You could look probably maybe 15 or 20 guys, and so you get a chance to see someone score that much in one quarter, man. That is special to be able to see. And 28 points in one quarter, so he can get to 81. And he came out of the game with maybe a minute to go. They should have left him in to see if he can get knock down some threes, get closer to 90.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant's 81. You could Google this stuff yourself, but Kobe Bryant's 81 versus Wilt Chamberlain's 100, and you just look at the comparison of their night, how many field goals they had, attempts, field goal percentage. Kobe's field goal percentage was 61 compared to Wilt's at 57. I mean, Wilt took so many more shots. But, man, 81 points 15 years ago. And since we're talking about that anniversary, I'd just be curious, Michael, any thought on Hank Aaron and his death today? I mean, what a life this guy led. Just curious if you ever thought about that before we talk some Lakers.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. I grew up watching Hank Aaron and admiring Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and Sandy Koufax and all those great legendary ball players back in the 60s and 70s when I was a kid growing up in the Bahamas. I knew all about Hank Aaron. And, you realize he was the last player called up from the Negro Leagues to the Major Leagues. Did you know that little fact?
I don't think I did.
That's right. And so, it actually ticks me off a lot when I think about Hank Aaron, because when the greatest players are named about baseball, his name never comes up. You'll hear Willie Mays, which is obviously right to hear his name come up. Mm-hmm. You'll hear... maybe Barry Bonds or other people. You even have Mike Trout. Sometimes people say Mike Trout's the greatest baseball player ever. I go, man, these people must be like 20 years of age. They don't remember Hank Aaron and Willie Mays to put Trout at that level. Now, he's a great player, but when you look at the numbers that Hank Aaron put up as a 180-pounder, it wasn't like he was a 230-pound, 240-pound beast. Just a small, little, slight-of-built guy, but he still could generate all that kind of power to hit home runs out of those spacious ballparks that he played in. He didn't play these little little league ballparks they play today that are built for hitting home runs. He had to play in those huge, spacious ballparks that had 430, 440 feet to center field and stuff, and 390 something feet in the alleys that you don't see anymore. So, but what upsets me is he's never considered the greatest player ever. He can do it all. Not only hit for power, but hit for average. He is a great defensive player. He can run. But you never hear Hank Aaron's name come up. And the thing about it, too, Scott, just think about this. This man had 755 home runs, had about almost 3,000 RBIs, 3,700 hits. And when he came up for votes in the Hall of Fame, some people said he's not a Hall of Famer. He was not a unanimous selection in the Hall of Fame. How in the world could you have had a Hall of Fame vote when Hank Aaron was eligible and you voted no? Come on.
Yeah, there's always one of those Hall of Fame voters, though, that just does it to be a jerk. You know what I mean? Like, there's just every year, there's just one of those guys. And then now, people go find him, especially the hometown fans are like, who didn't vote for our guy? And they go find him, and then they shame him and the whole thing. So, Michael, yeah, I mean, what a life and what a career. And so Henry Aaron's death today and Kobe Bryant, the anniversary of his 81 points 15 years ago. But let's fast forward, Michael, to what's going on right now. I thought the other night, the Laker win against Milwaukee, I thought they played really great. And for Anthony Davis to talk about how he's not playing great after the game, but to have a guy like a KCP step up big, 7 for 10 from behind 3 points. I thought Montrezl Harrell was awesome. So, I mean, team, they're just on fire. And I know they had lost that game to Golden State and people were like a little bit freaked out, but I mean, they look great.
Yeah, they're playing the way we expect them to, defending champions, and they actually got better with the addition of Harrell and Schroeder. So if they can stay healthy, and so far they have been very fortunate with the COVID contact and all that stuff. A couple of guys have had to sit out, Caruso, and the other guys have been able to stay healthy. Caldwell Pope missed a few games because of his ankle, but they're so deep that they can afford to lose just about anyone except for LeBron and Anthony Davis for an extended period of time and stay on top because of the depth that they have on their roster.
Michael, I last night I saw Caruso send out a tweet about, hey, winning our first game on the road and now 8-0 on the road this year. And I tweeted back and I'm like, dude, listen, you guys got this great opportunity right now to blast through this road trip. And there are some tough games coming up, like Philadelphia and Boston. And, hey, give Cleveland some credit, right? I mean, they've won twice now against Brooklyn, even though KD didn't play tonight. But it's a long road trip, but I would love to see these guys come back 15-0 on the road. I think that'd be amazing. What do you think? You think there's any chance they can blast through this road trip?
If they set their minds to that and dedicate themselves to that, it's very possible. It'll be hard to do because at Philadelphia, at Boston, those two big-time teams, they can go in there and win those games. It'll be tough, come back 7-0, but they definitely are capable of doing it. And after that win last night, the way they played, they obviously, I think they'll have their focus going into Boston and into Philadelphia because they obviously respect those two teams as teams that they could possibly see in July in the finals. So there's a good chance they can go 7-0. If they can get by Boston and Philly, they should set a goal to go undefeated on this trip.
Michael, so it's hard to come up with a whole ton of criticism. They're unbeaten on the road. They're like you said, better already this year, it seems, than they were last year. I would ask you if you could pick apart at something, if you could say, I'd like to see them be better at this, or I think that this could come back to be a problem later on. Is there anything you could pick apart right now?
Well, maybe the way they didn't finish the Golden State game, playing down to their competition. They allowed Golden State to come back from 14 points down in the fourth quarter because the Lakers took their foot off the gas because they thought that game was a win. And the Warriors kept playing as the Lakers sort of flipped the switch off because they thought the game was over. So that's the main thing they have to guard against is knowing that they are so good that they could just put it in cruise control and expect to win. That's what you have to guard against.
Michael, when you're on the show, not only are you on the radio, but we also have a live video stream. Now, let me explain to you what happens. Janice Garcia really runs the live video stream. She's the director. And while you're on, she puts up photographs of you to intimate to everybody it's Michael Thompson, and here's a picture of Michael Thompson. I'm putting a picture with the name. Michael, she puts up the picture of you with the flip-flops on, no shirt, looking ripped, by the way, very cool mustache, kind of looking Dave Winfield to me here in this picture. She puts up a great picture. There's boats behind you. I mean, you're looking money, dude. Have you seen this? You know what picture I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that's my all-time favorite picture. I carry it around with me. I'll tell you exactly. I was 32 years of age. I was snorkeling in the Bahamas, and I had a physique like Dwight Howard because I was pumping iron every day.
Yeah, you're looking great. 32 years old. You're in the Bahamas. Where in the Bahamas are you, by the way?
I was in Nassau in the Bahamas, just off the coast, doing some snorkeling just by the harbor. And enjoying that nice 72-degree water, that crystal clear water of the Bahamas.
Yeah. Are you, is that where in the Bahamas you're from? Are you from the Nassau part of the Bahamas?
Yeah, born and raised in Nassau. Family's still down there, and we go down there every summer when we can, except for this summer because of COVID. But definitely Nassau, Bahamas. Still consider that my other home.
I used to go down there all the time. When I used to live in Miami and I worked for a radio station there, every weekend I would fly to Nassau and do radio broadcasts from, I believe the name of the place was the Crystal Palace, I think.
Yep, Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
It's no longer there now. It's now a resort called Baha Mar. They sort of knocked down the Crystal Palace and put up a whole new resort there.
Yeah, I used to go down there every weekend, man. It was awesome. I had a great time doing that. Yeah. How'd you wind up getting from the Bahamas? I mean, to the States, and I've never asked you about that, but I'm just curious.
It's a long story, not too long, but kind of coach came over to the Bahamas, over to Nassau, looking for another kid named Thompson, and he came to my house by mistake. And I was about 17 years of age at the time, and he saw how tall I was around 6'8", and I wasn't a basketball player. I wasn't playing basketball, but he saw how tall I was. Even though he came to the wrong house and said, well, I'm over here to see this other Thompson kid because he wants to come to high school in Miami, Florida, Liberty City, play basketball at Miami Jackson High School. And he says, well, since you're so tall, do you want to come over too, son? And that's how I got discovered on accident by my high school coach. And I went over there, and he talked to my father into letting me go to transfer into high school in Miami. Went over there, played 2 years of high school ball, got recruited from there to Minnesota, and of course, you guys know the rest.
Wow, man! I don't know if everybody knows. Does everybody know that story? Like, am I the last one to know that story? Is everybody looking? Jesse, are you looking at me like Cap? Please stop. Everybody's heard this story before.
I mean, I'm sure I've heard it once or two in passing, but not the full story that Michael just gave.
I didn't know that.
But the picture has definitely, everyone knows. I'm finally glad that you had your chance to see it. Finally.
Yeah, nobody. I mean, to say, hey, I'm looking for another guy. Why don't you come? Did you know how to play? Had you played?
Yeah. I was, even though I was 15, 16, 17, or 17 years of age, I was playing. I got my first basketball experience playing in a church league. We had an amateur church league where all different churches in the Bahamas sort of got together and formed a little bit of a church league. And I would play for my church that I attended when I was 15, 16 years of age, around 6'4", 6'5", and I was good. I could play, but I was raw. but I knew how to play, and I was a big basketball fan anyway, but I had no desire or inkling that I was going to go to high school in the States and then eventually college and then on to the NBA, because when I was around that age, 14, 15, 16, all I wanted to do was be a pilot. I wanted to be an airline pilot. Aviation is my passion, still is to this day. I sit around at home now on YouTube and watch pilots starting planes up, jets up, and watching them fly from the cockpit. That's what I do for hours when I'm home, because I'm such an aviation buff.
Wow. Dude, everybody loves YouTube. I'm telling you, I got a guy coming on tonight, Michael, who's going to talk baseball with me. Guy's name is Giraffe Neck Mark. He's got 170,000 YouTube subscribers, and my son turned me on to him. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This guy produces more content. I don't know how he does it. He's a full-time YouTuber talking baseball, and I find these guys fascinating. So it's amazing what you can do watching YouTube. A friend of mine just recently put a starter in his car. He's like, I'm not paying somebody to do it. I'm going to go to the store, buy a starter, watch a YouTube video, and do it myself. And he did it. Pulled it off. I'm impressed.
Yeah. I mean, this internet stuff, man. I don't know how we survived without it 20, 30 years ago. How did we survive?
Well, back then, you would actually go snorkeling in the Bahamas because you were ripped like Dwight Howard because you were pumping iron. That's how we survived. We did other things with our time.
You're right.
You know what I'm
You're
saying?
right. We were much more active and much more, do it yourself back then.
All right, Michael, before you go, before I take up too much of your time on a Friday night, make a prediction for me. In the NFC title game, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, MT, who you like?
Gotta go with Green Bay. This is Aaron Rodgers' year to get to the Super Bowl. He's just playing at such a high level. So I'm going to stick with Aaron Rodgers. And now that Patrick Mahomes is back and healthy, and we all knew he was going to play, even though he had a concussion on Sunday. I don't see the Bills going in there and beating Mahomes. So it'll be Mahomes versus Rodgers, two of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, going against each other in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, listen, that seems to be the very popular pick. I'm going the exact opposite direction. I'm going both road underdogs. I don't know why. I've got this thing about Brady that he always wins, always finds a way to win. And I don't know what it is about Buffalo. Since they lost that one game to Arizona on the Hail Mary, they've won every game since. I just feel like they're the kind of team that could be built for a road playoff win. So just on a limb here, I'm going both road underdogs, just so you know.
Yeah, and if my prediction is right, Kansas City, Green Bay, this is a rematch of Super Bowl I.
That's
Do you
right.
realize that?
That's right. So if you recall, I'll throw this at you. We talk Hank Aaron tonight, and these younger people are like, Hank Aaron? Who's that? Okay, Who knows who the starting quarterbacks were? Jesse, I'll throw it to you. I know Michael will know the answer. Who were the starting quarterbacks in Super Bowl I for Green Bay and Kansas City?
So I believe for the Packers, it was Bart Starr.
Hey, very good.
But for the Chiefs, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Chiefs,
one out of two.
Lenny Dawson.
Lenny Dawson.
Lenny
That's
Dawson.
exactly right.
And by the way, it was not called a Super Bowl. It was called the AFL NFL title game.
That's right. That's right.
They didn't come up with the Super Bowl name until I think a couple of years later. Lamar Hunt. You know how he got the name for the Super Bowl?
How's that?
His daughter was playing with a Super Ball one day, bouncing. You remember the Super Ball?
Yeah, love those.
Bounce over your house.
Yeah.
She was playing with one of those, and he saw the and he was like Super Bowl, and that's how he came up with the Super Bowl. How about that?
Hey, that's good, Michael. You have really tonight. I mean, I'm a huge fan, as you know, but tonight A game. I mean, tonight you have really brought out the A game. You know, big time.
Yeah, I'm a sports historian, man. I'm always reading about this stuff. Well, of course, you can find all this stuff on YouTube.
That's right. Yeah, but you're busy, man. You're busy watching aviation videos. Hey, Michael, enjoy this Laker road trip. We love listening to you and John Ireland on the broadcast of the games, and I look forward to having you back on the show real soon. Have a great weekend, man.
All right, Scott. Thanks, buddy.
All right, you got it. Michael Thompson. I've been such a huge fan of his for so long. I was a listener of Michael Thompson's when he was doing talk radio. I mean, I just always loved him. So big fan and glad he comes on the show. Really am. All right, on the way, we've started off with Hank Aaron. We've moved into some Kobe Bryant and the 81 points 15 years ago. We've talked a little bit of the Lakers, this road trip they're on, the win against Milwaukee last night, and then somehow got into the AFC and NFC championship game with Michael Thompson. But coming up next, stories making the radar. Don't forget, we are on the radio tonight, but we're also streaming live video, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Get involved in the live YouTube chat. Stick around. I'm going right to the YouTube chat right now. And then the radar is coming up. It's Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN.
with Cap and the crew right now.
All right, everybody, it's a Friday night. Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN. Hey, to everybody who's listening on 710 on the radio, what is up? Glad you're here. For those of you that are watching on YouTube at ESPN LA, I'm going to shout out 28 CJD, who was earlier listening to my whole description of working at the Chess King in the mall, rocking the Z Cavaricis, back in the old school.
Huh?
28 CJD, my man. Yeah, I'm giving you a shout out, brother. I'll tell you something else. I'm following what's going on Twitter, too. And I saw a bunch of people talking about, like this guy, John Goss, at Orange Daddy 4, talking about Henry Aaron being a totally class act and how young he was when he hit that home run, and just the history around Hank Aaron. So I'm glad everybody's listening, communicating with us. If you're on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, hit me up at Scott Kaplan. If you're going to communicate and get into the conversation on Sided, find me at Scott Kaplan, and hit us up at ESPN Los Angeles on Twitter, because we're broadcasting live. Oh, and by the way, shout out to everybody who's watching right now on Twitch.
Oh, that's my land right there. What's up, Twitch people?
That's your people right there. Twitch.
What's up, party people?
Yeah, the gamers.
That's my life right there.
All right, so listen, it's time for the radar, but I'm going to tell you right now, Dominic Cruz is going to join us in a matter of moments. Dominic Cruz is the former two-time UFC bantamweight champion. He is also and has been a television analyst for UFC fights for years. And with this Conor McGregor fight, UFC 257, coming up tomorrow on ESPN+, I wanted to bring Dominic Cruz on tonight and talk about the fight, because I only know these UFC fights when they're big events. I don't know all the fighters. Like some of the people that are really into MMA, they know them all. Me, I know the events. I know Conor McGregor, so I'm looking forward to seeing this tomorrow. Dominic Cruz will join us. But Jesse the Body, what is on the radar tonight?
All right, Cap. So I got one really big thing on the radar, and that is that Dominic Cruz is actually already waiting for us. So we're just going to go ahead and skip on the radar. We'll do radar a little later and go right to Dominic Cruz, because I'm excited for this fight. I'm excited for McGregor to be back, and I want to hear all he has to say.
All right, here he is, Dominic Cruz on Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN Los Angeles. Dom, welcome back. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing really great, man. Thank you so much for being here. So give me initial thoughts on McGregor and UFC 257, Poirier. These guys have fought before. There seemed to be a lot of mutual respect this week from Conor McGregor. He didn't seem to be quite the showman that he normally is. So I'm curious. Give me an initial thought about this fight.
Well, which part? You brought up a couple things. If you're specific, I can tell you which part, because you brought up him not being as... You said the leading up is different, right? That's something I could talk about. I could talk about the fight itself. I could talk about the strategies that it's southpaw versus southpaw. Why don't you specify, and I'll get right to it for you.
All right, you ready? Here goes. Start me off with this. I'm glad you did that. You ready? Start me off with this. Why was Conor McGregor, why was he more professional and less showman leading up to this fight?
Well, you see what I mean? How you word it is, it's always how you frame it. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So what I would say is, to you, it wasn't a showman. To me, that was the ultimate showman. He's a true martial artist. The yin and the yang is what martial arts is about. It's about being both sides of the coin. We've seen him be the dark side, have we not?
Yeah.
It's nice to see him move into the light side and show what it's like to have decency and respect for an opponent that, you've already gone to war with. You got to understand, when you go to war with somebody, the way that they have already fought, they've stepped in on one of the biggest stages ever, all the pressure that leads up to that. When you feel the relief of that pressure after a win or a loss sometimes, depending, that brings a different level of pressure when you lose, but still, there's that immediate rest that you get in your mind and that breath of fresh air that you made it, no one's dead, and nothing got broken, and you're there. And I think that, after going through that once, now that they're facing each other the second time, they know what each other are. They know this is a different weight class. They know there are different parts in their career. Both of them have children. So I'm sure that they've matured a lot. That's what I would say. To some, they want to see the other side of the showmanship. Like you, maybe you want something a little different. But everybody has their own version. To me, he's being the ultimate showman.
Dominic, let me get to the next part of it then. Tell me stylistically about this fight. You started mentioning southpaw versus southpaw. Jump into that.
Yeah, well, when you look at southpaw versus southpaw, it really comes down to they're not used to fighting generally other southpaws. So that means that Conor and Poirier have both put in probably long hours against other southpaws. Now, basically, southpaws are used to facing other conventional right-handed fighters because there's more right-handed fighters than there are left-handed fighters if you look at the statistics. So it makes the puzzle fit different, if that can, for lack of a better term, If you try to fit two puzzle pieces together, it's going to fit one way. Now, everything's going to go opposite direction. The jab is going to be extremely important in this fight, and following up the jab, just like two right-handed fighters fighting each other. So when you watch a left-handed fighter versus a right-handed fighter, the space is much different because both of their lead legs are facing each other. Now that's flipped around, so it's going to change it completely. And neither of them have a lot of rounds with other southpaws. Now, Conor McGregor does, and who do you think that is? That would be Nate Diaz. And he lost to Nate Diaz with boxing, southpaw versus southpaw. Now, that was a different weight class, but I love this because it brings different ideas to this fight, different ways that Poirier does have a chance because of that, I believe.
All right, we're talking to Dominic Cruz tonight on Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN. He is the former two-time UFC bantamweight champion and television analyst. And so let me ask you this, Dom, and I don't know the answer, so I'm hoping you can explain why guys do this. When they fought the first time, they fought at 178. Now they're fighting at 155. Why do guys do that? Can you explain that?
So the whole weight cut situation, it's a great question, first of all. Thanks for asking. Because that's a huge thing that people don't understand is weight classes. Well, for instance, when I fight at 135 pounds. Right now I weigh about 160 pounds. So that's about 25 pounds over the weight that I'm going to weigh. Then I get 24 hours to heal after you suck all the water out of your body. So now that I got that 24 hours, that allows me to drop upwards from 25 to 30 pounds. Now, the benefit of that is if the person that I'm facing does not have the capability or the mental tenacity or the physical ability or the know-how or the science on how to do it, then I have a clear advantage because on fight night, I'll be back to 155 pounds. If they walked in at 135 pounds and didn't understand their weight cut, that means their frame on fight night will be 135 pounds. Wow, what an advantage that is. 25-pound advantage for a guy 20-pound advantage for a guy who walks in at 35 on weight, not having to cut anything, versus me, right? Which I'll have 20 pounds on fight night. So now that person has to carry a bigger frame the entire fight, and it also gives a huge advantage on height and reach a lot of times. So at 155, this fight's different because both of them are true 155ers, I believe. So that means they're cutting upwards from 25 to 35 pounds, each of them, both of them. When Conor was fighting at 170 versus Donald Cerrone is a true 55-pounder that went up a weight class to 170, and that allowed Conor to move up a weight class to 170 as well. Does that make sense? Because they're actually both true 55ers.
Okay.
So if Conor faced a true 170-pounder, that man's walking around closer to 200. Mm-hmm. Conor never reaches 200 unless he's completely out of shape. Mm-hmm. So it dictates a difference in frame. And when people can cut that much weight, it gives a clear advantage on strength and range a lot of times in fights.
Knowing what you know of these two guys, does either guy have an advantage based on everything you just explained about cutting weight and then having the recovery time and putting weight back on? Like, what do you think these two guys walk in at what will their weight be when they walk in your opinion?
Probably, if I had to guess, they'll be around 170 to 175 on fight night. And they both cut similar to the same amount of weight. The advantage that I would say that would show in this fight has nothing to do. Do you see how that's all stuff that I can say because I know how much the human body is capable of? Mm-hmm. What you don't know until the fight happens is speed, range, timing, endurance, and durability. All those things get dictated on fight night. There's nothing I can guess or anybody else can guess other than them showing up in the ring and punching each other in the face that evening. So I'm talking about the science of fighting when I'm talking about weight classes and losing and gaining weight. The stuff that's not necessarily the science are the intangibles, which is the things you just don't know, which are all the things that make you nervous as a fighter. which were the other things I mentioned. Durability, timing, range, and speed.
All right, Dominic Cruz, the former two-time UFC bantamweight champion, tonight on Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN, talking about UFC 257, which will be on ESPN Plus. And so, Dom, how do you see this fight going down? I mean, ultimately, who do you think's going to win and how?
Yeah, I love this fight, first of all, because, like I said, as a fellow dork of MMA, or anybody else who follows it as much as I do, I just love the schematics of it. Having two southpaws and Conor not having the most success against fellow southpaws. I mean, yes, he beat Nate later and he outboxed him, but still, that it makes you have to use different weapons than you're used to, and both of these gentlemen are going to have to pull that out. If I had to guess, I would honestly say that Mystic Matt gets it done again. His best chance to do it is in the first round. He knows that. He's got that powerful left hand, and he does hold more power than Dustin if we're talking about fights and how quickly they end them. Dustin kind of drags you out to deep water and then knocks you out. He kind of softens you up. He hits hard, don't get me wrong. Anybody can knock out anybody. But as we've seen, Conor has a different level of power in that first round than most of the people that he faces, as well as speed. The downside to that is he tends to gas because he's so fast and so powerful in that first. A lot of guys, he'll use his energy. And so that's where Dustin can get ahead in the later rounds if he can survive the early onslaught of Conor. So I give the later rounds to Dustin. I give the first round to Conor. And that's how I would guess, and from a betting standpoint. Who do I think? If I had to guess, I would go Conor, first round.
Yeah. And I think, right, Conor won the first fight in the first round with a TKO, right?
Yeah, exactly. He used specific weapons to circle Dustin into his power left hand, and he clipped him behind the head with a legal shot, but it did land behind the head, and that shot put him down. But, honest to God, this is a different Dustin that we're seeing. It really is. But that's what's fun about it. There's a lot of things that have shifted for both these gentlemen in their lives.
Dominic Cruz, the former two-time UFC bantamweight champion, tonight here on Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN. So let me just ask you this question. You mentioned being a UFC MMA junkie. Are you a football fan?
I do love football. I do. I love watching the NFL.
Okay, well then, Saturday's UFC, Sunday's NFL. Give me an opinion while you're here. What do you think about the NFC game, Brady in Green Bay against Rodgers? What's your prediction?
Man, Brady versus Rodgers that's just epic, because you got Rodgers, they're both older than dirt, but can still do this thing like insane. Right? It's crazy to watch these guys. If we look at the team, it's just going to matter of who can really set up the early defense, I feel like, because as we know, when you watch football, the defense generally wins, especially when you got two super offensive quarterbacks. Whoever can lock down the defense probably is going to win. And then I'd have to look at the numbers of whose defense hits higher. And I would probably, I don't know, maybe you have those answers. Whose defense hits higher on the Richter scale there and between those two?
I would say Green Bay's defense will have the advantage of they can put pressure on the quarterback, and Brady's, his game is precision and pick you apart. It's not mobility. So I would say that the advantage goes to Green Bay. But for me, there's just something about Tom Brady in these moments, because I've just seen it, obviously, like we all have over the last 18 years, too many times. I just can't bet against him. It doesn't matter that it's on the road. It doesn't matter to me how great Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay offense has been. I gotta go with Brady.
Man, so you're saying Green Bay's offense and defense to you on the paper outweighs what Brady's team brings to the scale, but we're still going for Brady because he's Brady.
Yeah, what Brady does, what Brady brings to a team, what Brady has already, made this team believe they can be. They beat him earlier in the year. I know it's up there and it'll be cold, and they're a Florida-based team, but Brady's played in all these cold weather games. Listen, I may be proven way wrong and Green Bay may blow them out, but that's Tom Brady. It's like when I look at LeBron James. That's LeBron James. He is going to be playing for a championship. Move over to the other side. What do you think, Dom? KC and Buffalo.
Man, KC and Buffalo. Well, I actually don't know those teams as well as I know Brady and Green Bay. But when I watch football, like the most, what I like is how I can create parallels to fighting, and that's why I watch it. If you watch people who can get up the field the fastest, those are the ones that usually win, and the ones that are the quarterbacks that are the most mobile in the early rounds. You were explaining that about Green Bay and the Patriots. But if you think about Connor and Dustin, Dustin kind of stays more stationary, and Connor moves a lot in the first round. So I'm looking at the parallels of how I can look at these teams and see how they share, strategies at the highest level. You were talking about leadership earlier. I think it all comes down to leadership. And when you talk about Connor, he is like the Tom Brady. I mean, whether you want to say it or not, he's got that mystique about him. And when you talk about Buffalo and KC, you got to look at the leader of the team. You got to look at how they lead and how they've done stylistically under bad situations in those leads. I think that makes a big statement.
So who you like?
Well, I'll go with KC because when I watched them, their quarterback is super mobile.
Yep. All right, there you go. Listen, that's a popular pick this weekend. I mean, everybody loves KC because we've seen him do it. I do have questions about Mahomes, his foot, and what happened last week, and I just feel like Buffalo is built for this kind of thing. We're going to see what happens. We'll see what happens on Saturday between Conor McGregor. What's that, man?
I say cortisone is a hell of a drug. I'll tell you that about his foot.
Dude, I can only imagine that he will have no feeling whatsoever in that foot.
Yeah,
So,
he will. Right. He will not. I've broken my foot and shot it with cortisone, and it's been fine. That gives you an idea of how strong that stuff can be.
McGregor Poirier 2 on Saturday, and then the AFC and NFC Championship games on Sunday. Dominic Cruz, it is always great to talk to you, my friend. I appreciate you, pal. Thanks so much for doing this tonight.
So much fun. Good to talk to you guys. Have a good night, okay?
All right, you too, man. Dominic Cruz, the former two-time UFC bantamweight champion and Fox Sports UFC analyst, great guy, and I love how he tears things apart and concentrates and thinks and goes, okay, hold on, you just asked me 3 things in one sentence, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Let me start over. Here's 1, now 2, now 3. I love Dominic Cruz. You know Dominic Cruz's fighting career, Jesse?
Somewhat. He has a good history with TJ Dillashaw.
That's right.
22-3 record. He is the 2014 Comeback Fighter of the Year.
By the way, everybody on the live stream can watch Jesse right now, working so hard to come up with all these things.
I'm trying to remember everything that I read earlier when I was prepping. I'm like, all right, what's the highlights that I remember reading? I'm going in my head.
Yeah, you just got him. His battles with Dillashaw, his 25-3 record, his Comeback Fighter of the Year honors in 2014. Dominic Cruz, great guy and really great fighting analyst. And look, if you're a big MMA fighter, you may be stoked on UFC 257. See, I'm more of an event watcher. So for me, it's Conor McGregor. He's the star. He's the event. I didn't even ask him. I should have asked him about that YouTube star, Jake Paul. And down in Miami this past week, if anybody saw this, if you have a life, you didn't see this. If you don't, then you did. And this kid, Jake Paul, who's this YouTube sensation, got millions and millions of subscribers. Guy makes a fortune doing this by just being kind of a provocateur. And he's got a plane flying over South Beach in Miami. He's sitting on the beach with hot chicks and champagne. And he's saying to Conor McGregor, come fight me. And listen, I hope Conor McGregor does go fight the guy eventually.
Oh, me too.
I mean, this kid needs to get his ass handed to him. And
so much.
And it'll be fun to watch. And I give the guy credit because I would fight Conor McGregor for $50 million also. No problem.
But what about for $49 million?
I do that fight. Listen, I've been to the Super Bowl where Conor McGregor comes and works Radio Row, and then you stand next to him and you're like, really? Come on, man, for real? Because he's tiny.
Yeah, but I mean that don't matter if he knows how to fight.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I would never even nothing. There's but for $49 million, I'll go in and fight him.
Don't get it twisted, homeboy.
That's right. Don't get it twisted.
$49 million will probably be enough to cover all your medical bills after he whoops you.
Well, listen. That guy Jake Paul's got the guts to get in there and do it. So why not? All right, coming up, let me dive a little deeper into the championship weekend on the way. Bucks, Packers, Bills, Chiefs, and then later on, tonight, Joe Wiz is going to stop by. Joe Wiz is on the radio tomorrow morning before the Weekend Warrior show with Doc. And so Joe Wiz will stop by and give us some picks. We'll break down the lines because both of these games, the way I saw them, were both 3-point games. So I want to hear what Joe has to say. Let me take a look. AFC, NFC title games this weekend. I'm going to get into both of them coming right back. It's Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN.
Lord, I need me a break. But let me go by the weekend.
Hey, it's Friday night. Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN, broadcasting on the traditional radio airwaves. You're driving around in your car tonight. It's so easy, man. You just turn on the radio, 710. There we are. Yeah, it's the Lakers station. It's the Rams station. You got it.
It's the station.
That's right. That's right. And I'll tell you this, though. We're everywhere you might be tonight. If you're a gamer and you happen to be on Twitch, we're on Twitch tonight doing a live stream.
What's up, party people?
Yeah, what's up, Twitchers? And if you are on YouTube, because you're like Michael Thompson, who was with us earlier tonight, telling us that all he does is watch aviation videos in his free time on YouTube. If you're on YouTube tonight, we're live there too. So get involved in our YouTube chat. I'll do it during commercial breaks. And if you are on Twitter, just find us at ESPN Los Angeles. We're doing a live stream. And if you are old school, like, put it this way, if you knew who Hank Aaron was today, you can find us on Facebook, okay? Because we talked about this earlier. This Henry Aaron story today, if you're younger and you did not know much about Henry Aaron other than he was the guy who hit all these home runs and broke Babe Ruth's record, and then Barry Bonds broke his record, regardless of what you think of Bonds, it's an interesting day to at least take a look at the history. So the old timers, the people that are using Facebook, they knew that history. And like Jesse was saying, what's up, party people on Twitch? There ain't nobody on Twitch that knows a whole lot about Henry Aaron. You feel what I'm saying?
I mean, there might be a couple. I mean, like you said, we're going to have that YouTuber later. I'm sure he knows a lot more about Hank Aaron than you would even think of.
So we'll
So
talk
those people are out there.
We'll talk a little bit later on. I do want to get into some baseball. Kike Hernandez leaving the Dodgers and on his way to the Boston Red Sox. And I will talk some baseball later on because my man Giraffe Neck Mark Luino, who's got a really popular YouTube channel covering Major League Baseball, will be here. And we'll talk to Mark a little bit about that later on. But before we get there, and before we make selections for the championship weekend, and we go through some of the wagering analysis with Joe Wiz, who will join us coming up in a matter of minutes. Joe is on the air tomorrow morning here on 710, right before Dr. Clapper. So make sure if you're up early and you're looking for advice on how to play the games, you can tune into Joe Wiz tomorrow morning here at 6 a.m. Okay. Let's jump right into it here, guys. Can I have like my music, where I kind of get into my games here? Can I have a little of that, Curtis? There we go. Curtis Poindexter tonight, keeping us on the road. What's up, CP? How you feeling tonight, dude?
Good. It's actually my Friday on a Friday, so I'm looking forward to it.
I know. It was an exhausting week, though, this week. I know you were so into the inauguration. You were so into Lady Gaga and J-Lo. And Jesse, of course, had a big problem with Garth Brooks because he took his hat off and he had that fresh new haircut. And he's like, who is that guy?
Wait, you're saying that was Garth Brooks?
That's right.
I don't
Bernie
believe
Sanders mittens.
Oh, meme of the year.
Dude, this Bernie Sanders thing is everywhere. Honestly, Janice, can I tell you something? Let me talk to Janice, who's running our video stream tonight.
Please have
Janice,
that like sitting on his TV or something.
Yeah, can you do me a favor? Just put Bernie Sanders somewhere in the live stream. He could sit on my shoulder. He could sit on my desk over here. I don't care.
We should have like a contest and be like, all right, watch the show and count how many Bernies appear on throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
And then the winner wins like a T-shirt or something.
Okay. All right. I like that idea. Which T-shirt?
The Scott Kaplan Show T-shirt.
Okay. Otherwise, I was going to say, I really like that dope-ass LA hat you got on your head.
Oh, hell
tonight.
no. This hat ain't leaving my head. This is my girlfriend's Christmas present to me, and I love it.
Okay,
and the back,
sharp.
too, for everyone to see.
Let me see that.
It says Los Angeles.
All right. Look at that, man. You are looking sweet. For those of you that are watching the live stream, I hope you're seeing all this, okay?
Oh, they are. We out there.
Yeah, we are here. Show them one more time, Jesse. Radio people, I'm going to tell you right now, radio listeners, do me this favor.
Here.
Okay?
Son.
Oh,
yeah.
Radio listeners, you got to come over to our YouTube channel later on. When we're done on radio, come over and see what's cooking on the YouTube channel.
It's definitely not The Rock, but it's just as good, I swear.
Yeah. All right, here we go. You know how there's that voice guy on ESPN who always does things like, The Blitz is being brought to you by... My son asked me today, he goes, how much money do you think that guy makes? I don't know, man. A lot, dude. That guy's everywhere. Well, here, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to say, I'm going to do NFL playoff predictions presented by Puente Hills Toyota, the house of yes. Yeah, our live stream tonight being brought to us by Puente Hills Toyota, La Casa de Si. Jesse thinks I sound whiter than I already am when I speak in Espanol.
Whoa, not that you already are. That you just are. It's there. There's no like more or less.
Yeah, it's nothing I can do about it, bro.
It's okay. It is what it is, Cap, but I don't fault you for it.
I feel you. All right, let me say this. Green Bay, Tampa Bay, the early game on Sunday. What a matchup, right? I mean, it just doesn't get any better. And when I say it doesn't get any better, listen, Drew Brees versus Tom Brady, which was not like a great game, but the television ratings for that game were off the charts. America sat down to watch Drew Brees and Tom Brady. America will sit down on Sunday to watch Aaron Rodgers, 37 years old, Tom Brady, 43 years old. What a delicious and juicy story this game is. Aaron Rodgers with a chance to lead the Packers back to the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl from the NFC goes through Green Bay to get to Tampa. So either the Buccaneers are going to become the first team in NFL history to make it to the Super Bowl in their home stadium, or the Green Bay Packers in legendary Lambeau are going to take it all the way south to Tom Brady's new house and play the Super Bowl there. For those of you watching the live stream, now it's getting completely ridiculous. I mean, Janice has pulled up now this Bernie Sanders photo with Prince Akeem from Coming to America.
Oh, that is great. That is great.
Yeah, and so there's Prince Akeem, and King Joffrey Joe something. Yeah,
I know him as Darth Vader.
You mean Joffrey Baratheon?
Not Joffrey Baratheon, different Joffrey. Not Game of Thrones Coming to America. This is beautiful. What is this, velvet? Yeah, so if you're watching the live stream, Janice is going Bernie Sanders crazy now with the picture that is everywhere all around the world. Okay, so Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Battle of the Bays, winner goes to Tampa for the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay fans are saying, wait a second, we had a World Series team, we had an NHL Stanley Cup champion, and now we've got a chance to have our team in the Super Bowl in our stadium. Can it happen? I think it can. Everybody in the world thinks it's easy. Green Bay, on fire, can't be beaten, at home. Rodgers is playing out of his mind. Devontae Adams can't be covered. I know. But there's just something about Tom Brady at this time of the year, and for him to have gone from New England to Tampa and have his team in this position, it's as if he was completely entitled to it. I don't know why. My gut tells me upset. Road team. Buccaneers. And I know I'm in the minority. Later on, or maybe I have them backwards. Which game is the early game? Which game is the late game? Jesse, you'll have to fact check.
No, you're right.
Okay, good.
The NFC is the first game, and then it's followed by the AFC game.
Okay, very good.
12:05 and 3:40, respectively.
Yeah, and CBS will have the late game, but they've got the Super Bowl. So Jim Nance, Tony Romo, the entire crew, they'll be in Kansas City to see Buffalo take on the Chiefs. Now, look, here's what people think. They think Andy Reid, great coach. Eric Bieniemy, why is he not getting a coaching opportunity? I will talk about that later, as a matter of fact. They're looking at Buffalo, and I really think people underestimate the kind of season that the Buffalo Bills had. They went on a tear after losing that game against Arizona with the Hail Murray. Remember that game? They lost that game on the last play, and we weren't even sure if Arizona was all of a sudden good. We thought they were at the time. Turns out they really weren't. But since losing to the Cardinals, they beat the Chargers. They beat the 49ers. They beat the Steelers. They beat down the Denver Broncos. They destroyed the Patriots, and they crushed the Dolphins. Look, I think that Buffalo, who in the playoffs then beat the Colts, and it was a close game, and they beat the Ravens in what really wasn't a close game, and it was kind of an ugly game, and they only scored 17 points. But I'm telling you right now, this team is on such a run, Buffalo. They've won 7, 8, 9 games in a row. Buffalo's built for this. And I know this is not a popular pick, but I really think Buffalo can pull into Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. There's a question about his foot. You saw him last week get knocked out and get woozy trying to stand up. I still don't think that was a concussion, by the way. I'm still convinced, talking to Dominic Cruz about mixed martial arts, I'm convinced he was choked out and not concussed. But he went through the protocol. Mahomes has practiced. He's going to play. If Mahomes is who he normally is, everybody assumes that Kansas City wins. They're at home. I don't know why. It's my gut. There's probably no way that both underdogs will win. Both home teams will lose. It's not likely. But the whole world wants Green Bay and Kansas City, and I just feel like in sports we don't usually get what we want. I'm taking the underdogs. So coming up, Joe Wiz, host of The Fine Line, Saturdays, 6 a.m. here on 710, right before Dr. Clapper. Joe Wiz will give us his opinions on the AFC and NFC championship games. Next, it's Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN.
It's time for the conference.
running this operation. He's also right there, downtown LA, in real life, like going to work, actually going into the office.
Bank that.
Yeah, I got Janice Garcia. She's directing the video live stream on Twitter, Twitch. A lot of shout-outs tonight on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube.
What's up, party people?
And Janice is giving a little wave right now for those of you that are watching.
What's up, Janice?
Yeah, what's up, girl? And I like what you're doing with all those Bernie Sanders pictures now. I like what you're doing with Bernie Sanders on the live stream.
I think we should just become known as the stream that will just put Bernie Sanders randomly everywhere.
I don't know what planet is the planet that has the rings around it, but now she's got a picture of the planet.
I believe that's Saturn.
I don't know if it is or not. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I think I got like a C in science or astrology.
I think I failed astrology. Or was it astronomy? I'm not sure which one is the one we're talking about. Now she's got up a picture of Bernie Sanders sitting on the throne in the Game of Thrones.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
I mean, she's just crushing tonight. She really is. She is. So listen,
I'm a Cancer.
I want to say this. So which one is it? Is astrology? Is astrology?
Astronomy is the space. Astrology is the.
So like I'm a Cancer. Which one's that one?
Yeah, that's astrology. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an Aquarian. You know. What about you, Curtis?
I'm a Capricorn.
Nice.
No wonder that's exactly why we mesh so well.
Really? Is it? Because I don't know what any of those things mean. You know, I don't know what any of those things mean.
I mean, it could be that.
Let me do this. Is Joe Wiz ready to roll? Is Joe Wiz ready?
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay, good. Joe Wiz is the host of The Fine Line with Joe Wiz, Saturdays, 6 a.m. in the morning here on 710, right before Dr. Clapper. And I'll be listening tomorrow morning because I wind up waking up and then I wind up getting in my car and then there they are. And then I send out a tweet and then Dr. Clapper says my boy Kaplan's tuning in. So it's all good. All right, here is Joe Wiz on Scott Kaplan here on 710 ESPN. What's going on tonight, Joe? How are you, man?
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me on. Sounds like you guys are having like a big party over there. I want to join you and Jesse and Janice. I'm all the way here on the East Coast, 3,000 miles away in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah, it's Friday night in L.A., dude, you know, so, and we're on late. And a friend of mine, I think I said this earlier, a friend of mine said to me, he goes, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I'm working. He said, till what time? I said, 10. He goes, are you in high school? Like, what is your deal? You work till 10 o'clock at night? And I'm like, yeah, dude, me, the whole crew. And we got a lot of people that are out there driving around right now in LA. And we got a lot of people around the country and around the world that are tuning into our live stream. So, dude, here it is. It's Friday night. We're on, man.
I'm pumped up. I mean, I'm ready to join the party and celebrate. And, you know, it's over 11:30 here on the East Coast. I just got back from the Meadowlands. I made a few dollars betting the harness racing and made a few bets over there on some of the basketball games. So I'm doing okay here.
You know, it's funny. You mentioned harness racing. I love horse racing, but thoroughbred horse racing. Yeah, I am. And
I was hoping we talk about this $3 million race coming up tomorrow.
Well, it's funny you say that because I haven't really been paying much attention because once the summer ends at Del Mar and the horses come back to Santa Anita or they go to Los Al for a little bit, I kind of just zone out a little. And then, you know, when they come back to Del Mar, I get back into the summer and then again back to Santa Anita. And so I haven't really been paying attention too much. But what's the big race coming up this weekend?
Well, tomorrow at Gulfstream Park, you have the $3 million Pegasus. It's a World Cup Championship Invitational. Yeah. It's a $3 million race, and there's some really good horses in there. The favorites, Knicks Go, ridden by Joel Rosario. Yeah. He's a favorite of 5-2, and then the second favorite is Code of Honor, trained by Shug Mayehi, and driver on him is Tyler Gaffleone. But Scott, there are a couple bombs in here, and I always like playing a couple bombs with horse racing. I'm not a favorite player in general, and there's two horses in there. The two horses, which is Coastal Defense, for those of the people out there listening. Coastal Defense, he's driven by Corey Lannery, and also Mr. Freeze with John Velasquez, who's probably the best driver, perhaps best jockey in the world. He's on that horse, Mr. Freeze. This is tomorrow. It'll be televised on NBC. It's a $3 million race. All the entire crew of TVG. I'm telling you, I'm like addicted to TVG. You talk about TVG. Del Mar and Santa Anita. Those like my two favorite tracks. Yeah. Here on the East Coast, I travel a lot. Go up to Saratoga during the summertime. Monmouth Racetrack's just about 40 miles from where I am in Hoboken, so I'm bouncing all over the place. I find horse racing to be more of a hobby and a de-stressor dealing with trying to pick winners every day, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball. I like your long shots here, Coastal Defense and Mr. Freeze. I'll definitely be checking those out tomorrow, and I'm glad you're giving me that piece of advice. So, Joe, it's funny, by the way, just real quick, because nobody other than you and me are going to know what we're talking about here with horse racing. But I wanted to say, you mentioned harness racing. I grew up,
in a place where that's all I knew was harness racing, the Monticello Raceway in
That's right.
upstate
It's not
New
too
York.
far from where I am in Jersey. You got to drive up a little north, but it's not too far away. I'm familiar with Monticello. You got Yonkers, and of course the Meadowlands is the world, the 1 mile track here. That's the track. I'm about 5 miles from the Meadowlands here, so I enjoy harness racing just as much as I do thoroughbreds.
Yeah, and isn't there also is it Marlboro, New Jersey?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a track
Marlboro,
there too.
New Jersey. Freehold Racetrack over there
Freehold.
as well.
That's what it is. Freehold Racetrack. There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
Freehold now has legal sports betting, which is insane. It's exploding everywhere, Scott. It's only a matter of time before it comes to L.A. and the state of California. You got to get your government out there straightened out and start telling them, hey, get some money, get some tax money here. Don't let Vegas get all your money because it's inevitable that it's going to come to Vegas. It's come to California. It's just a matter of when. It's amazing. Here on the East Coast, I'm in Jersey, right across the river in New York. People literally come to the Holland Tunnel. They come to the Lincoln Tunnel. They go over the George Washington Bridge. They put their bet in over the phone, and then during the summertime, people will take their bikes and ride it over the George Washington Bridge, and then they'll go back to the New York side where the infrared, where the technology will pick them up, determining where they're at. The GPS will pick them up, and they put their bets in, and they go right back to the other side, and they put their bets in. But New York is starting to get smart. They just recently passed legislation, and my guess is by summertime, they'll be taking action, and they'll be getting money and hopefully giving it back to the hard-earned people that are paying all those heavy taxes.
Yeah, it's coming to California. Legal wagering is coming to California. Sports wagering, it's coming. It is a matter of time. Things do move slower in California. And by the way, for everybody that wants legalized gambling, and they want us to get into the face of the governor, we got a whole bunch of other things that are like in line before that. We'll start with just COVID vaccinations, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff.
We're running out of that here in New York as well. And Scott, what's an interesting point? Down in D.C., they actually have a sports book inside the Washington Nationals arena where they're playing baseball inside their ball field.
Yeah.
So you could be sitting there. We talk about it on my show tomorrow, which will be on at 6 a.m. here on 710. We talked about it, but there's actually a sports book inside a baseball arena, a baseball field. You go to Washington Nationals, so you better really bring your credit card because you really could go home broke depending on whether you buy a beer or you put a bet in on the Nationals while you're playing the game, and you can bet who hits the most home runs. Sports betting is just exploding all over the country.
Yeah, and I even see the guys from Barstools opening up like branded casinos. I think it was this past week in Detroit, in Chicago.
Michigan.
At Wrigley Field. They're also doing things. I don't know if it was with FanDuel or with one of these companies. And so, and it amazes me that when I watch an NBA basketball game, Joe, how many times I see MGM ads or FanDuel type ads or whatever those companies, all of them. They're advertising within the sports game. So for all these years where the players were dissuaded and gambling was considered this dirty little secret, it's wide out in the open where you can advertise gambling inside of pro sports games. So maybe we'll even see that.
I wonder what Pete Rose has to say about all of this.
Well, I called him about this about 2 months ago. When the whole thing happened at Wrigley Field, I called him about 2 months ago and asked him about that. And as you can imagine, Pete has a lot of really strong opinions. So we're talking to Joe Wiz tonight, host of The Fine Line with Joe Wiz tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. right before Dr. Clapper. Joe, let me get your opinion on the two big games coming up on Sunday. Start me off with what you think in the Tampa-Green Bay game. When I was looking at it yesterday, it was a 3-point line. Green Bay a 3-point favorite. What do you have it at?
Well, the line's slowly moving, Scott. It's interesting. The line's moving to 3.5. I've even right before I came on the air, I checked online. I even see some 4 starting to surface. I was at FanDuel, which is the sports book over at the Meadowlands where I was doing my horse racing. They had 3.5. There's some 4 starting to show up here. And, when you take a look at it, Tampa Bay, they're coming off that win over New Orleans. They won 30-20, and we know about Brady and his 43 postseason starts and 6 rings and everything else that he has. But you got to remember that the Saints did not play a good game. I mean, they were, the Tampa Bay was aided by 4 turnovers. It's very hard to overcome any team when you have 4 turnovers. It was very uncharacteristic. Breeze did not have a great game. And you look at Green Bay. I mean, they've been the favorites all season long. It's obvious that when you take a look at Rodgers, he's going to win the MVP. Ironically, Scott, what's interesting here is this is the first NFC Championship game at Lambeau under Rodgers, and Green Bay hasn't been to the Super Bowl in 10 years. Yeah. I mean, I had to double check that. I was like, wow, has it been 10 years? They're on a 7-game winning streak. They're averaging 33 points per game. The way I see this game here is it's going to be hard to bet against Green Bay.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard, but it's kind of like what you said about horse racing, how you don't like to bet on the chalk. I don't know
right,
why.
And I'm not a chalk player, so that tells you even more.
Yeah.
That gives you more of a compelling reason. I would say out of 100 games I play, 70 of them are normally will be underdogs. I'm traditionally known as an underdog player here. The line is relatively low. It's 3.5. There are some 4 starting to surface. I had bet the game earlier in the week. I took the minus the 3, but I see that there's more money coming in on Green Bay right now. And when these lines come out during the right now, the lines are what they are. There's there's no secret. Nobody can tell you they have inside information. Everybody knows everything there is to know about Tampa Bay and Brady, and everybody knows about Rodgers and his passing for 4,200, almost 4,300 yards and 48 touchdown passes, and he's going to be the MVP. I think during the playoffs, Scott, basically I look for the team that's going to win, and that's what I got. Last week I did have Tampa against New Orleans. I took them plus the points, and I took them on the money line. But this time I'm leaning towards Green Bay in this game.
I took Tampa and the over. What do you have the over at right now?
Right now, the total's at 51, and it's interesting because, you look at it here, I mean, the way these teams are scoring here, I mean, Brady they've scored, Tampa scored 30 or more points in 5 straight games. They've won 6 in a row, and during that winning streak, they're averaging 36 points per game. And then you look at Green Bay, and they're won 7 in a row, and they're scoring 33 points per game. It almost seems like it might be a little bit too easy to take the total in this game. The weather cooperates. It's going to be a little cold there, but other than that, Brady is not going to be influenced by the cold. He's used to playing in the cold in Foxborough, and there's so much at stake playing in the Super Bowl, so many storylines. Can Tampa Bay be the first team to be playing at home at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa? So many things, and sentimental choice would probably be to go with Tampa in this game, only because you're rooting for Brady. On the other hand here, Green Bay has done nothing wrong. They're 14-3 record. They took care of the Rams. The Rams had a very good defense. I think the Rams defense is definitely better than Tampa's defense. We saw what the Rams did when they went to play at Raymond James. They took care of Tampa, and they pretty much shut down the Rams. The Rams did not have much of a game in that game, and the Rodgers passed for almost 300 yards against a very tough Ram defense.
I agree, but I would only say this. There was no Aaron Donald. I mean, he may have been in uniform, and he may have played a little bit, but he was not the disruptive force that he would normally be, and that was really, without Aaron Donald, that defense was going to have a hard time getting to and putting pressure on and shutting down, ultimately, Aaron Rodgers. So let me ask you this then, Joe. We're talking to Joe Wiz, the host of The Fine Line with Joe Wiz, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. right here on 710. Joe, what do you think about the AFC game? Because, again, when I looked at it, it was a 3-point line. Kansas City was the 3-point favorite. And I'll tell you, man, just like this Tampa-Green Bay game, my gut for some reason is telling me I'm taking Buffalo with the points, and I'm going with the over. What are you going to do?
Well, when you look at this game here, I mean, these two teams met earlier in the season, and Kansas City won the game rather easily at Orchard Park. They met October 19, 26-17. But that's before Buffalo got hot. Buffalo has been playing really well right now. When you look at the Buffalo game against Baltimore, they won the game 17-3, but the score's a little bit deceiving here. Although I did have Buffalo in that game, I mean, Lamar Jackson threw that interception for 105 yards. We had 2 missed field goals by the best field goal kicker in the country. In the NFL. So that game was a bit misleading. Buffalo will have to play better than they did against Baltimore. Kansas City, on the other hand, they just got by Cleveland last week. And Scott, you talk about a line move here. That line was at 10 on Sunday morning early and here on the East Coast. And then that line plummeted all the way to 7.5. There was a huge move on that game. It's almost like the bookmakers knew what was going to happen in the game. And Cleveland won the game, and they didn't cover. And you know what's interesting, Scott, is when you take a look at Mahomes, he's 24-1 as a starter in his last 25 games. But the only negative thing about that, KC is 0-9 against the spread in the last 9 games. 0-9. It's hard to ignore that. And the last time the KC covered was back on November 1st, like when they played our hometown team here in New York, the lowly New York Jets. That's the last time KC covered, going all the way back to November 1st. So when you look at it here, Buffalo doesn't have a running attack. They don't have a good running back. I mean, these two teams, first and second in total offense. I think this could be a shootout. I'm more inclined to play the total of this game because I think Josh Allen's going to throw the ball 30 times minimum because they're not going to look to they're not going to be looking to keep the ball on the ground because that there's nothing to do there. KC, Clyde Edwards is banged up, and the only thing about KC with Sammy Watkins, we don't know with his calf injury how well or how impactful he'll be in the game. Almost similar to like an Aaron Donald situation, he may suit up. How effective he will be could be another story.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a great game. Both games are going to be great games. I
think these two games are going to be better than the Super Bowl.
Well, okay, and is that, well, wait a second. You think you've got Green Bay and Kansas City, right?
No, right now I like Green Bay in the first game. In the second game with Buffalo and KC, I'm playing the total in this game. But I call it Super Sunday. I talked about it on my radio show tomorrow here in LA at 6 a.m. I think that either game here, the first game, the Tampa game with Green Bay, I mean that game could be better than the Super Bowl. Sometimes the Super Bowls turn out to be duds. In this game here with Buffalo and KC, I'm making a play on the total in the game right now. I feel more strong about the total and the over 54. I lean towards Buffalo taking the 3. I'm waiting to see what happens. The big question mark in this game, Scott, obviously going to be we know that Mahomes was cleared. Is he 100%? Probably not. How much nerve, was it a concussion he had? It was some sort of a nerve problem that he had. And he also has a foot problem as well. And that foot problem could be bigger than the actual problem that he had that got him out of the game against Cleveland.
Yeah, listen, I think if Green Bay and Kansas City meet in the Super Bowl, we could be looking at the kind of game we saw 2 years ago in the Coliseum between Kansas City and the Rams, that incredible Monday night game when they moved the game from Mexico City back to the Coliseum. On the other hand, if we see Tampa and Buffalo, I don't know that America is going to love that game or what it might ultimately look like. Maybe I'll be way wrong. Maybe America will say, wow, the Buffalo Bills have a chance at Tom Brady in his new home stadium. Maybe that's sexy and juicy. But either way,
there'll be some fans at Raymond James as well, Scott. They're allowing about 25,000 fans.
Yeah.
The good thing is that the NFL is giving away some tickets to first-line responders, which I think is a great thing to do, and as much as we can give to them to show our appreciation to everyone out there. So things like that, that's one good thing that the NFL is taking up. I originally had plans prior to the pandemic to go to the Super Bowl, but I'm not heading down there. I'm going to sit up here north and just enjoy whoever's in it. I expect to be, at least Green Bay will be one of the teams. I'm expecting Green Bay to win it all. I made a bet at the early part of the season with them, and I'm going to stick with my guns on them.
Yeah, I haven't missed a Super Bowl in probably 20-plus years, and this is the first time I'm not going. I have no interest in going to Tampa. You mentioned the NFL giving away tickets to first responders. It's a real sweet thing to do when you have 22,000 people in the stadium versus in a normal year where every ticket has a big fat price tag and it's all corporate. So, listen, when you watch an NFL game, Joe, and I'll let you go on this, it's interesting when there's 15,000 people in a stadium today, how that looks so packed. Whereas if you watched a Cincinnati Bengal game 2 years ago and there were 30,000 people in the stadium, you'd watch it on TV and go, what the hell's wrong with those people? Like, they don't go to their games. They don't support their team. Granted, they stink, but seriously, like you would watch games and go, wow, that place is empty. Now you see a place with 15,000 people in a stadium, or Kansas City last week, you're like, damn, look at all those people. 15 looks packed in today's day and age.
Scott, to be honest with you, I'm just happy. The NFL has done a tremendous job. So has the NBA, and hopefully baseball gets in their whole 162-game schedule. They've done a phenomenal job, all the major league ones, especially the NFL. I mean, they played games every day of the year this year. It's the first time ever. They played games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even a Friday game. I loved it, and I think they've done a tremendous job. And as much as I'd like to see the fans in the stand, as long as people can be entertained and have a diversion from everything that's going on all over the world, whether it's politics or the pandemic, I'm glad that we got through it. And, back in September, when Odell Beckham jumped out and said, hey, let's just opt out, let's skip the NFL season, I'm glad that smarter heads prevailed and we got football.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it actually is quite amazing the way pro sports have somehow found a way to power through. Hey, Joe, it's great to talk to you. We'll all be listening tomorrow morning, at least those who are the early risers at 6 a.m. when you hit the airwaves here on 710. Great talking to you. Good luck this weekend. And by the way, I'm all over Coastal Defense and Mr. Freeze tomorrow. I'm all over those two long shots.
Together, when I come out to California, we're going to go out to Santa Anita and Del Mar. I know we can't do both because they brought it separate times, but Santa Anita is like my favorite track to watch on TVG. Obviously, I'm on the East Coast. I don't get to go out there much, but those are my two favorite tracks.
Let me tell you something really quickly, and we'll go. If you really want to enjoy yourself, you really want to see something cool, a true spectacle, you come out to Del Mar in late October, or maybe it's early November. It's one or the other. It's close. You come out to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup in 2021. Like Santa Anita does a great job for the Breeders' Cup, but Del Mar has a different reputation. Del Mar is to West Coast racing what Saratoga is to East Coast racing.
That little short period of time that they have running, that 6-week run in the summertime. I love Del Mar Racetrack, and I'm actually had that circled on my calendar to possibly get out to the Breeders' Cup and enjoy it. And like it says, there's big races tomorrow at Gulfstream, and hopefully a lot of people out there will be watching it and getting some of those big bombs in there. You got to bet some bombs, Scott. You know the deal.
Dude, that's what I'm doing. And by the way, Coastal Defense and Mr. Freeze, what are they in the morning line, you know?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Coastal is 15-1, and Mr. Freeze is at 20-1. So I took them in. I threw the two favorites in there. I don't traditionally play favorites, but I threw in, Nick's Go. Nick's Go is, run 17 races in his career, has never run a mile and 3/8. So this is going to be his first challenge. I can tell you one thing: Nick's Go is going to take the lead and look to wire the field. If he can wire the field, he's going to win it all, but he's definitely taking the lead. You'll see him in the lead halfway through the race. Whether he holds on, Code of Honor will be right on his tail, and hopefully the bombs will be following right behind there. Coastal Defense is my bomb of the day.
All right, Joe Wiz checking in for the first time on Scott Kaplan tonight. We'll be listening tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Joe Wiz, host of The Fine Line with Joe Wiz. Hey, Joe, great talking to you tonight, man. A lot of different topics. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, you too, man. Right on. All right, does anybody, I'm going to ask this question here real quick. Does anybody know what we were just talking about? Were we speaking a foreign language completely? Does anybody have any idea when we got into a little bit of horse racing talk? And Joe's hardcore. Me, I'm Del Mar, Santa Anita, okay? Horse racing is like people are driving around right now going, what are you two guys talking about? And by the way, how cool did it sound when I said things like, I've got the road dog and I've got the over? Like I actually sounded like I knew what I was talking about with gambling, and I even made it sound like I've got money on the game. I don't.
Road dog, like the wrestler in the Attitude Era?
Not that guy. Different road dog.
Oh, you didn't know?
Different road dog. Different road dog.
Sorry.
That's all I was saying.
I heard road dog, and that's immediately what
I was saying was how cool it sounded when I said that I've got the road dog and I've got the over, because it made it sound like I'm actually knowing what I'm talking about when it comes to gambling, and like I got money on the game, which I don't. I use an app where you can make bets on the games, but without real money. So you kind of feel like you have the action.
So you're doing the mystical money thing.
Yeah, I'm not a bettor. I don't bet on football games. I bet one football game in my entire life. It's a completely true story. It was a Monday night football game, and I want to say it was like the Cincinnati Bengals.
I want to guess how much we bet.
Okay, hold on. I'll tell you the story, and then you make the guess. So it's one football game. I've never bet a game in my life. Okay, I'm a freshman in college. I've never bet a game in my life. And I got some buddies who were in the next dorm room, and they're from Philly. Hey, I'm from Philly. Let me put 5 dimes on a game. I'm from Philly, And so a couple of my buddies were like, Kaplan, why don't you put a couple bucks on the game? So I'm looking at the game, and I think the game was like Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills, Boomer Esiason, and the Cincinnati Bengals, as best I recall. And I think at the time I was like, oh my God, the Bills are going to crush them. They're going to kill them. So I put money on the game. I put money on the game with a bookie. Okay, on a landline, on a phone, on a landline. I put money on a game with a bookie.
Was it rotary dialed?
It was not. At that point, we actually could push the buttons. And I'll tell you this right now. I lost the game. And then they told me I had to pay. And I was like, whoa, hold on. What do you mean I got to pay? And they're like, yeah, you lost the bet. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, I don't really. They want to collect the money from me, really? And they're like, Kaplan, give us the money, or it's your thumbs. And so I paid him the money. I swear to you, I promise you, I've never, ever, ever bet on a football game, a basketball game, a fight. Not one thing in sports other than horse racing have I ever bet on, because I was 18 years old. I lost that bet. And by the way, had I won that bet, who knows what the story might be all these years later. You know what I'm saying?
Very true.
What do you think? How much do you think I bet on that game?
You lost $50.
That's right. I was 18 years old. I lost $50. And $50, man.
That's all it took, just $50.
Let me tell you something, kids. The best thing you can do, bet, lose, and never bet again. Okay? The worst thing that can happen is
that sounds like a terrible time in Vegas.
Well, listen, all I can tell you is this. I don't bet on any football games, but I have been using an app where you bet on the games and you use like fictitious dollars, and it gives me the same feeling Do I know what I'm talking about? Do I not? By the way, I've already learned I don't. I was 1-3 last week. I'm not betting real money.
But what do you win if you like hit everything?
You win more of these fictitious dollars on this app. That's all. The app
And
is called
you
Yuta.
and you can't do anything with this money. You can't even like redeem them for a coupon or something.
Actually, you can redeem stuff for like swag from there.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, it's called the app is because people are going to hit me up. They're going to ask what it's called. It's called Yuta, UDDA, like Yuta Man. And if you just look it up in the
Yuta
app stores, you'll find it. It's called Yuta Sports. And I'm telling you, I've been using it because it makes me like I do realize what Joe was saying is right, which is gambling's coming. You know, and I think gambling will become a much bigger part of sports talk radio eventually because you hear these guys like Joe who are on the air on Saturday, but you watch ESPN during the week, and a lot of times they're talking about the line. Or even my uncle Big Al Michaels, you know, has been hinting at the line for years, but now he can pretty much go out and talk about it. All right, coming up, let me talk about a little bit of baseball on the day that Henry Aaron died. And I didn't know this when I invited this young guy to come on the show who's on the way, but I didn't know that Kike Hernandez was going to sign with the Boston Red Sox, 2-year, $14 million deal. So we'll talk about how the Dodgers have been very quiet in the offseason, while the Padres have been the story of the offseason. And coming up, my man, Giraffe Neck Mark Luino, famous YouTube baseball content creator, Giraffe Neck, coming up next on Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN. Yeah, it's Friday night on Scott Kaplan. 710 ESPN, broadcasting throughout Los Angeles on the airwaves of 710. Home of the Lakers, the world champion Lakers. If you were with us earlier tonight, Michael Thompson, the Laker radio analyst, was here. We talked a lot about Henry Aaron. We talked about the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's 81 15 years ago. And I'm going to talk a little Kobe a little bit later on because we're kind of coming up on the 1 year, you know. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. But I'm going to turn my attentions to a gentleman by the name of Mark Luino. And last night, for those of you that were with us, you heard we had on a gentleman by the name of Mario Rizzi. And Mario is a YouTube football talker. And he's a really interesting guy. He's in Chicago. He's like 28. And he's a full-time YouTuber. And we were just pounding him with questions about how he does this, how he's built 70,000 YouTube subscribers. Well, my man Mark here, he goes by Giraffe Neck Mark. Giraffe Neck's got like 165,000 YouTube subscribers, and he's got people all around the world literally tuning in for his baseball commentary. And I said, we're going to do things a little different on the show this year. We can't just be a radio show anymore. So that's why we're currently streaming live on YouTube and Twitch.
What's up, party people?
Yeah, shout out to the Twitch people tonight. And we're streaming live on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. And like I said, Twitch. And our live stream, by the way, is being brought to you by Puente Hills Toyota. So here's my man, Mark Luino. His YouTube channel is called Giraffe Neck Mark. You can follow him on Twitter at Giraffe Neck Mark. And here he is on Scott Kaplan on 710. Mark, thanks for staying up late tonight, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Scott. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to get on the radio.
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, isn't it funny how like you're excited to get on the radio, and I'm excited to get the radio show on YouTube. But YouTube is your world, you know?
Yeah, no, YouTube is definitely my world. I mean, it's, you know, I didn't grow up watching YouTube, so of course you think of all the great radio guys that I heard, you know, as I was growing up. But now YouTube's kind of becoming more of a popular thing. The worlds are colliding, though. It's a good day.
Yeah. So Giraffe Neck, first of all, people are going to ask, so I got to ask, you know, where does the name Giraffe Neck Mark come from?
Yeah, I mean, like, long story short, when I was streaming video games my freshman year of college, people kept making comments about how long my neck was. And while my neck probably fits my body more now, when I was a little younger, you know, 18, 19 years old, my neck was a little bit longer than it, you know, appears to be now. So that's really where the name comes from.
So you've kind of grown into your neck.
Yeah, I would say I've grown into it a little bit for sure.
Dude, explain to everybody who's listening, how long have you been YouTubing your baseball thoughts and opinions?
Yeah, I've really been doing my baseball thoughts and opinions probably for about 4 years, but it only really started to get serious in the last, 18 to, 24 months, where I've become like full-time talking about baseball on YouTube, trying to do it every single day, and just trying to spread the love of the game with everybody out there.
Yeah, but did you ever think of, or did you know that this could happen, that you could, get your subscriptions up to, 170 plus thousand subscribers, so every time you put out content, all those subscribers get a push notification, and then they have the quick opportunity to click on it, and your videos get thousands and thousands of views. Did you go into this knowing that this could be your full-time job and profession?
I fully went into it knowing that it could be my job. Did I ever think it would be? I mean, I think deep down I knew that I had what it took, but you put in all this time, you put in all this work for a couple of years, and I was in college, I was getting my degree. What was going to be my job. I was going to get a job in advertising, and then one day it just clicked, and everything took off, and I went almost like a finally moment where it was like, yes, I can do what I really want to do for my job, and, I've just been lucky enough to keep it going since then.
Hey, Mark, how old are you, man?
I am 25 years old.
I want everybody to hear this. This guy's 25 years old, and he is a full-time baseball YouTuber. He took his passion and his love for baseball and not kind of knowing exactly apparently what he wanted to do after college, and said, I'm going to become this, and did it. I want everybody to hear that, because you can do whatever you want to do, man. If you want to talk baseball on YouTube and that's how you make a living, you can do it. What is the key, though, Giraffe Neck? What is the key to building an audience? 170,000 subscribers is a ton. And of course, in the big scheme of things, it's none. But how do you get to 170,000, dude?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely didn't happen overnight. Like, there was a bunch of years where it was grinding to maybe gain 10,000 subs in a year. But once you start to really get into that groove of things and people start to, see your videos more often and understand what you're bringing to the table, and you build this community as you get your videos going as well, because, the comment section, and you start to interact with more and more people. But essentially what happens is you just got to be genuine. If people can watch your videos and get entertainment out of it, they'll continue to come back, and YouTube will continue to show your videos to more and more people. So as long as you're out there, you enjoy what you're doing, you put together a good video, and you keep people entertained, there's a really good chance that you can make this thing work for yourself.
And do you do it all on your own? I mean, do you shoot it, edit it, put in graphics? Do you do it all on your own?
Yeah, so at the start, I did everything on my own. Right now, I don't always do everything on my own. I mean, if you look at my channel, I'd probably say 85% of the videos that I make in a year are made by me. But there is times where I call in help from an editor, or I call in help from a friend to help me maybe come up with some ideas. But really, at the end of the day, like, I'm shooting, I'm editing, I'm recording, I buy the cameras, I buy the mics. Like, it's all me. But just recently, I've started really tinkering with an editor.
Well, it's really cool to have you on the air tonight, man. It really is. And I appreciate you staying up late on the East Coast to hang out with us here in LA, in Southern California. And dude, if you happen to get a chance to go on the ESPN LA YouTube channel, you'll see that we're at the very, very beginning phases of building an audience on YouTube. And by the way, Jesse and Curtis, you guys will love this, but Giraffe Neck also has a channel on Twitch. And Mark, tell these guys, because these guys are Twitch guys and these guys are gamers. Tell them what
Rocket
you do
League,
on Twitch.
right? I saw that video.
Yeah, so I was playing Rocket League the other night, which was a lot of fun. I'm basically just like using Twitch as a way, almost as for my viewers to get like a more, I don't want to say intimate, but a closer look at like who I really am. I'll talk baseball with them. It's kind of a good way to have a live chat about baseball, but also I want to be more than just about that. I want you to get, who Mark is more than anything.
I like it, man. Get personal. I think that's great. So we're talking to Mark Luino tonight. He is what I would call a Major League Baseball content creator on YouTube. His YouTube channel is Giraffe Neck Mark. You can follow him on Twitter, same handle. So, Mark, let's turn our attentions to baseball because that's your area of expertise. You ready to go?
Oh, I'm ready. I can talk baseball all day.
Okay. Let me get this. You're 25 years old. What did you know, or what kind of appreciation did you have as a hardcore baseball fan about Hank Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, like, my dad did a really good job of, raising me and teaching me about all the great, baseball players that were around during his time. And, of course, Hank Aaron's going to be one of the guys that always comes up. I mean, he was the home run king for a very long time. He was just one of the best players to ever step on the field. If you took away all the home runs he hit in his career, he still would have 3,000 hits. So he wasn't just a guy who hit for power. He hit for average, hit for power, played good defense. He was an all-around outstanding player, and I don't feel like you can talk about the history of baseball without 100% mentioning this guy because he's bigger than the game itself.
I'd love to hear you say that because we were talking about it earlier. How much do young people know and appreciate? I even myself, man, I had to go back today on YouTube and watch Home Run 715 and listen to Vin Scully, the voice of the Dodgers, who explains the storyline of it's not just that he broke the home run record, what it means culturally right now in 1974 in the deep South in America. And just that minute and a half of Vin Scully can teach young people about what Henry Aaron lived through. So it's interesting to hear you talk about that. Keep it on going, though. I didn't know this when we invited you on the show, that Kike Hernandez would leave the Dodgers and go to the Red Sox, 2-year, $14 million deal. Giraffe Neck, what do you say about that, man?
I think if you're a Dodgers fan, I'm sure it hurts you a little bit. I know Kike was a big fan favorite out in L.A., and that he was obviously a part of the World Series team. He's been a part of the teams in the years past. But I think for the kind of player that Kike is and for the kind of players that the Dodgers have on their roster right now and all the young talent, you're okay with letting him go. Not that the Dodgers got, outpriced because we know L.A., the Dodgers, they'll spend any amount of money to keep the guys that they want. But I think that if there was a guy to let go, you're okay with letting him go in Kike. But he's a great pickup for the Red Sox.
What do you think about the possibility of Justin Turner? Do you expect him to return to the Dodgers?
I think if they can get him on a cheap deal, I think you get him on a 1-year deal, maybe with an option for a second year. It's going to be tough, but Turner's also in a really tough market right now, too, because you got guys like Arenado, Chris Bryant, who are on the trade market, which, let's be honest, if you're a team right now, you're probably looking at Arenado and Bryant before you go to Turner because of the age and just the talent available. But Turner is still really good. He's one of the more underrated third basemen in the league. Yes, he's getting up there in age. I think the Dodgers are in the driver's seat a little bit here where they don't have to be too aggressive. They can let the market play out, and they might be able to get Turner back on a 1 or maybe even 2-year deal for really cheap, especially, a little hometown discount.
Do you think, because this has been kind of just passed around this past week, do you think that Trevor Bauer is a realistic possibility? You think that the Dodgers and Bauer, there could be anything going on?
I mean, it's so tough because you never can count the Dodgers out anything, like I said earlier. They constantly want to win. Their ownership and their front office has shown that year after year that they will get the best players available in order to give themselves the best chance to win. And Trevor Bauer is the best pitcher by far available on the market right now. So if they really want him, I'm sure they will get him. Is that realistic? Is that the best option for their future? Because, of course, the luxury tax and everything? Probably not. I wouldn't be putting them as one of the top 2 favorites to land Bauer, but I just every time I count out the Dodgers, they surprise me. So I've learned to stop counting them out on anything.
Who would you say are the 2 favorites then?
I would say right now the 2 favorites are going to be the Mets and the Angels, the other LA team.
All right. Okay. Interesting. We're talking to Mark Luino tonight here on Scott Kaplan on 710. Mark goes by Giraffe Neck Mark. You can find him on YouTube. That's his channel, Giraffe Neck Mark. He's got 170,000 YouTube subscribers, and this guy talks baseball all day, every day. He's got thousands and thousands and thousands of views on his YouTube videos. And so I'm doing things a little different in 2021. I don't have to always bring on MLB Network analysts or ESPN analysts. I'm finding a lot of entertainment, a lot of information out of these YouTube guys. So Giraffe Neck, tell me this. We talk about Bauer as a possibility to the Dodgers. I've seen you do a lot of videos about the San Diego Padres. They've had the most explosive offseason. They surprised everybody with, certain pickups like Yu Darvish, Blake Snell. I mean, these are big deals for the Padres, and I'm just curious what you think about what the Padres have done and what they've become versus having to nip at the Dodgers because the Padres know that's who they're battling with.
Yeah, I mean, the Padres have had possibly the best offseason in all of baseball. A.J. Preller, the GM over there, has been incredible, but that's kind of been his MO the last, year and a half, is that he's going to go out and he's going to be aggressive, and he's done that. Darvish, you're getting a guy who's a little bit older and is making about $20 million, I think, for the next 3 years. He's going to cost you a little bit more, but he showed us last year in that 60-game season that when he's dialed in and it looks like he figured something out mechanically and with all his pitches, he's a Cy Young caliber pitcher. And for a Padres team who was already very good, you add a Cy Young caliber pitcher, that's going to be a huge improvement. And not only that, then you do add a Cy Young pitcher with Blake Snell from the Tampa Bay Rays, who's shown he can be the best pitcher in baseball. There's no doubt in that. Comes from the left-handed side, which is something that they kind of needed. They don't have a lot of lefty arms right now in that rotation, and with Mackenzie Gore being the only other one that's really available, but he's still a couple years away, maybe, or I should say a year away. The pitching pickups that they've made, and then even Joe Musgrove the other night, which is probably going to be a really under-the-radar move by a lot of people because he's not a Cy Young name. He's not one of the top pitchers. They got 3 legitimate starting pitchers who on some teams would be aces, and on most teams would be 2 or 3s at the worst, and they added them to a team that was already very, very close to being a World Series contender. They have made the NL West even harder than it already was, and the Dodgers, while I don't think they're sweating, they've definitely got the Dodgers' eye right now because this division's not, free anymore. It's up for grabs right now.
All right, we're talking to Giraffe Neck Mark here on Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN. Before you go, man, because I've kept you up late tonight, back on the East Coast, I saw your post earlier today on Sided. This was a great question. Is Major League Baseball losing your interest? And I thought it was a really interesting question that you asked because you're a baseball guy. Your whole YouTube channel is based on Major League Baseball. And so for someone like yourself, what an interesting question to ask an audience. Is Major League Baseball losing your interest? You actually wrote that it's a slow and quiet offseason, and you intimate that perhaps Major League Baseball is losing people's interest because other sports, like football as an example, they don't have an off season. And basketball, NBA basketball's off season was not only short, but it's always drama filled. So I will ask you, Giraffe Neck, do you think young people in particular are losing interest in baseball? Right now, the poll says 51% say no, 33% say yes. What do you say, man?
Yeah, I think it's really tough because baseball, I always, joke around about this, but they seem to not want to be relevant 365 days a year. With basketball, like the first day free agency happens, it seems like all the big guys are signing. Baseball has a problem right now where the top free agents aren't signing quickly. They're not signing quickly, which doesn't allow you to then talk about the teams going into the season. A big question that I always get is, give me predictions. Give me predictions. Like, who do you think is going to win the division? And I can't talk about it yet because we have so many key players that are still on the market or are available that you don't know what these teams are going to look like. So it's almost not even worth talking about because the teams could look vastly different. If the Dodgers sign Trevor Bauer or if the Angels sign Trevor Bauer, that completely changes the scope of their league and their division. So baseball is in this problem right now where they're making a lot of money, of course, outside of the COVID year, but the players want more and the owners aren't paying them as much. So it's causing a bit of a stalemate, which means the market's moving slowly. And days like today, there just wasn't much news outside of, unfortunately, Hank Aaron's passing. There's just not a lot of info. It's a lot of rumors. It's a lot of, hearsay. And I think people just get tired of it when this is the third or fourth offseason in a row where there just hasn't been a lot happening quickly.
Wow, that's really interesting, man, because I'll tell you this. Last season, the shortened season was like my favorite baseball season ever, and I really wonder if going from the shortened COVID season back to the full 162, I wonder if I can possibly be as into it. What worked for me last year was the pace of the season, the speed of the season, the fact that every game seemed to count more last year in the shortened season. And I wonder what baseball will be like for me this year once we go back to 162.
Yeah, I mean, I can fully expect most people. It's a marathon. That's what they always say about baseball. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. The 162, it's unlike any other sport in the world. I mean, baseball plays the most games comparatively to any other major sports league. It's not even close. But I think if you're, the diehard baseball fan, that's what you love about it, is that you have so much to watch and there is so much to talk about because we do dominate the summer for the most part. But the 60-game season was nice if you're into, you're not a big baseball fan, you want to kind of get into it. I think it was a nice way to step you into the zone of following baseball, learning the players in a lot of a shorter time. But hopefully those people can still fall in love with it over the 162 because I really do think it's the best sport in the world. It's just, there definitely is a barrier to getting involved with it.
All right, Mark Luino, Giraffe Neck Mark. His YouTube channel is Giraffe Neck Mark. You can subscribe to his YouTube channel. You'll hear all of his thoughts and opinions and all the information that he puts out about Major League Baseball seemingly every day. You can follow him on Twitter at Giraffe Neck Mark, and you can follow him on Cited. I thought this was a great question at Mark Luino, Luino. Giraffe Neck, I look forward to having you back during this baseball season. It is great to talk to you. Thanks for staying up late on the East Coast, and stay healthy out there, my man.
Thanks for having me on, Scott. Anytime.
Yeah, real pleasure. All right, that's cool, man. I find these guys fascinating. You'll have to just excuse me and humor me. I find these guys fascinating. As someone who has been a traditional media person for as long as that dude's been alive, this kid has got a monster following. And I used to think when I was his age, I got to get a job at ESPN. I mean, that's how I'm going to get on TV. That's how I'm going to get on radio. This guy, he puts out all this content on YouTube, and then on his smart TV, he puts himself on. He's on TV. He don't have to have a job at ESPN. These guys are making
Technology.
bank. Dude, these guys are making bank. You realize that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I could have probably been on that had I been more assertiveness with my career, I guess, and like trying to do video, but I was just kind of more focused on audio. I never really thought about video. Kind of regret it now, but it is what it is.
Why regret it? Why regret it that you can do it right now? I mean, like you're a gamer.
No, I know. I regret not doing it like back then.
Oh, dude.
Like not jumping into it.
Let me tell you something. You talk about regretting it. You ready? Listen.
You regret those $50, I know, Cap.
No, it's not just the $50 that I lost on the Buffalo Bills. That's not the only regret. Here's what I regret, is that when you're on radio, you actually should be building your YouTube channel. so that if one day you're not on radio, you got an audience
Very
someplace.
true.
And what happens with us in radio is we all think, no, we're taking away listeners from radio and we're driving them to YouTube, and then that hurts ratings. We got to start thinking differently. That's why on a night like tonight, we are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on Twitch. We're going to where people are. Twitch and YouTube have hundreds of millions of users.
And billions.
So why would you say everybody come to me here at 7:10 a.m. when I can say, come to 7:10 a.m., get out of your car, go onto YouTube, go onto Twitch. It's super easy on Twitter at ESPN Los Angeles, and old schoolers love Facebook. So I'm telling you, I know a lot of people in the radio biz are like, dude, no, you're driving people away from the radio. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. You're actually expanding your audience on multiple platforms. That's what I think. All right.
Just blew everyone's mind.
Yeah,
Everyone watching, listening, just...
I love all these YouTube guys. I think they're great, man. I think they're great. I think they're great young entrepreneurs. I mean, you're 25 years old and you're a full-time YouTuber and Twitcher.
I had that much work ethic when I was 25. I never did it for myself, I was just always working, but never doing anything for myself.
Well, dude, you could do it, man. Anybody could do it. I mean, that's I think what his message was. Anybody could do that. It just takes consistency and authenticity. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really cool. I really did. All right, coming up. Let me talk about a couple other things tonight. Let me talk about the Rooney Rule. Why is it that all these dudes are getting head coaching jobs in the NFL and ain't no brothers getting jobs in the NFL? Why is that? Why is it that Eric Bieniemy is the offensive coordinator of the Super Bowl champions and is the right-hand man of one of the best coaches in the NFL and manages one of the most potent offenses in the NFL? Why is it this guy cannot get a head coaching job in the NFL? Let me talk about the Rooney Rule coming up and how it's not working. Why is the Rooney Rule not working? Oh, and by the way, I will explain why Bieniemy isn't getting a head coaching job. Stick around. It's Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN.
Hey, it's Keyshawn.
You ready?
LA's mega sports lineup.
Are you ready? On LA's mega sports station.
Start your day with me, Keyshawn, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Keyshawn, Jay Will, Zubin, and Travis Rogers. Here with you each weekday morning. Mike Greenberg, Greeny is back on your radio from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. At 11, you loved him for years on 710. Max is back. Max Kellerman for your lunch hour. And at 1 p.m., my guys Mason and Ireland are back in middays until 4 p.m.
How about a little afternoon flavor with George Sedano and LZ Granderson?
Sedano and LZ until 7. And the LA Sports Talk Now don't stop until 10 p.m. Each weeknight, Scott Kaplan holds it down at night.
The all-new 710.
Don't get it twisted, homeboy. The best sports talk in LA on 710 ESPN.
On 710 ESPN.
Seriously. My grandfather in the 70s had this tape recorder, old school tape recorder. The one that had the red button for record, and you would have to push play and record for a cassette player. And then I would take the microphone and I would talk, and then I'd rewind it and I'd listen. And I wanted to be on. I wanted to hear it. And then I was a little kid when sports talk just started to happen, and I would call into sports talk radio shows. I was like 11 years old. So always wanted to be on the radio. But now it's 2021. And so when you're on the radio, you got to be everywhere else too, man. So that's why we're on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook, and we're doing live streaming video, and it's all being presented by Puente Hills Toyota. Puente Hills Toyota is the house of yes. Okay, I mentioned before the break, and I'm going to jump into it now for a minute, that the NFL, as we're getting ready to head into these championship games this weekend, that the NFL is really not looking very good, are they? When it comes to all of these head coaching hirings. You know, every position that has been open has been filled by the next guy who's just a white guy. And there was one guy whose name is Robert Saleh, who you've heard, and he got a head coaching job, and he happens to be of Lebanese descent. He's a Lebanese American. And so, you know, you say, okay, well, there was one minority candidate. But I don't think when we say minority candidates, we're talking about the league is made up of overwhelmingly African-American players, which is why you would expect that at some point there should be more African-American coaches, especially when there are so many coaches in the NFL who are African-American, who have paid their dues and worked really hard and gotten themselves into great situations. And then it's just you're one step. You're just one step from making it to the head coaching job. And in the case of a guy like Eric Bieniemy, why can't this guy get a job? What is it about Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs? Why can this dude not get a job? Okay, and I told you I'm going to give you the answer, so here it comes. Look, I've heard everybody tell me that he doesn't interview well. Okay, he's not interviewing well. Well, what does that mean? You know, Eric Bieniemy is a guy who grew up in L.A., went to Colorado and played in their heyday in the late 80s and had a really great NFL playing career. And I say great, not Hall of Fame, just something to be super proud of. And so if you tell me that there's some concerning things in his background, okay, so maybe when he was a kid in college, he got into something here or there, or maybe he had a DUI in his life. Guess what? A DUI is not a death sentence. See Steve Sarkisian, okay? And when I say DUI, I mean Sarkisian had a drinking problem, and it was well documented at SC. And so you don't not come back from stuff like that if you're good and you're a professional. So anybody who's going to ever tell me that Eric Bieniemy and any problems he may have had a long time ago as a college player or as an NFL player, look, he's a grown-ass man now. This is a 50-plus-year-old man who is a leader in a locker room of players. And, you know, sometimes we hear that phrase, he's a leader of men. I mean, that's why the Detroit Lions said they went out and hired this guy, Dan Campbell, who had this hysterical press conference yesterday about biting people's knees and being kicked in the teeth. I mean, it was unbelievably violent to listen to. But leader of men, okay? Eric Bieniemy walks into a meeting with an owner who's a billionaire white guy, and he's a guy who's from L.A., and he was in a fraternity. You guys know this fraternity. It's a primarily black fraternity. In fact, it maybe is exclusively black fraternity called Omega Psi-Phi. I only know this because I spent a really short period of time with Eric Bieniemy in the mid-'90s when I was an undrafted free agent kicker, and he was a running back for the San Diego Chargers at the time. He has his arm and like his butt branded with the Omega sign. And let me tell you something. You see it, and you're like, oh, man, dude. You let people brand your body for a fraternity? And he's like, yeah, that's kind of what I did. That was that was what it took to get in. And I can just imagine these, billionaire white guy owners sitting there going, oh, man, this guy, I don't know, man. Jeez, do I want to hand my team over to this guy? And then you see who the teams are hiring. They're hiring the fresh-faced white kid who had 1 year as a defensive coordinator, or the old Texas white guy who happens to think that he's a tough guy and we're going to take one bite at a time, and if they punch us, we're going to come back and punch harder. And it's hard to believe that these guys, I say these guys, the guys who've been hired, get these jobs, and a guy like Bieniemy, who's so accomplished in his coaching career and had such a great playing career, it's hard to believe that he's not finding a job. And people say, well, what's wrong? What's the story here? There's two things at work here, and here they go. One, just because Eric Bieniemy is known as the hot name right now, he's young. I say young, he's in his early 50s. He's been at it for a long time. He's got all the experience. He's earned the right. He's African American. There's the Rooney Rule. He deserves a job. Well, maybe he does deserve a job. But the problem is that it's not like there's a line. It's not like they've got like a bunch of guys lined up and then they've got a bunch of job openings and one closes and so the next guy in line gets the next job. It doesn't work that way. You know, the owners and the general managers and whoever else is their front office executives, they conduct interviews. They do background searches. By the way, background searches don't always work so well, do they? Okay? Because if you're going to tell me about Eric Bieniemy and any blemish on his record at any time in his life, I will tell you that the New York Mets clearly didn't know anything about background checks when they hired this creeper of a general manager who was sending you-know-what pics to a female journalist who wanted no part of this guy. 60-some-odd text messages like, hey, baby, and she's like not even replying. And the Mets hire this guy, and you mean to tell me that there's nobody that knows that this guy's a creep? Nice background check. So don't tell me about little blemishes on Eric Bieniemy's record from 20 or 25 years ago or even 30 years ago, okay? So that's the first part. So the first part of it is you don't stand in line. You're not guaranteed. Just because people in the world of football say that he's the hot guy and the Rooney Rule says that he deserves this opportunity, just because of that doesn't guarantee that whoever's next, he gets the job. It doesn't work that way, okay? We all understand that. But here's the second part, and this is maybe the most important part, and I promise you this, you've never heard this before. What I'm about to tell you, you've never heard this before, okay? When people say, why doesn't Eric Bieniemy get a job? Why is it that he's not getting a head coaching job? What is wrong with Eric Bieniemy? Why does he not interview well? Is it some of the things in his background? Or is it he doesn't call the plays? He's the offensive coordinator by title, but Andy Reid is really the guy making the decisions. Well, so what? There's lots of guys who get jobs when they're offensive coordinators and they don't call plays. Did all the guys who got jobs who worked for Sean McVay, did they call plays? They didn't, because McVay was calling plays. So it's an excuse. He's not the play caller. That's nonsense, okay? Dan Campbell was the assistant head coach and tight ends coach in New Orleans. Let me tell you something. He wasn't calling plays. In fact, he didn't even have anything to do with the game plan. So why does Eric Bieniemy not get a job? And I'm telling you, you've never heard this before, but this is the story. There's one agent, one guy, who runs the way coaching gets done in the NFL. There's one guy. His name is Bob Lamont. And Bob's a great, great agent, okay? I mean, he is, and he's been at this for a really, really long time. And you can go to his website, and you can just Google it. The company is called PSR-Inc., and so you can go onto their website and they explain it to you. PSR focuses its practice on coaches and sports executives in the NFL and the NCAA. We pioneered both the coach and the sports executive representation industries. ESPN magazine dubbed PSR the gold standard of coach sports executive representation, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You go onto this guy's website. You find out who he's the agent for, what executive vice presidents, what general managers, who are his head coaches in the NFL, who are his offensive and defensive coordinators. So what happens is now, here's this guy, Bob Lamont. I'm giving him a ton of credit, okay? I'm not knocking the guy. I'm trying to give the guy his credit. But this is the behind the scenes that you guys don't understand, okay? Because the question is so simple. Why doesn't he get the job? It's so much more complex, and here it is. This guy, Bob Lamont's been at this, and he's been the best at it forever. He's got the phone numbers, and he's got the contacts to call the owners of the teams. He represents the general managers. Do you understand? He represents the GM, and then he represents the coaching candidate. And then he says to the GM, hey, you're my client, and he's my client, and I want to put you guys together, and before you know it, we got a love connection on our hands here. You can Google this stuff on your own, okay? PSR-INC.net. PSR-INC.net. And the gentleman is, his name is Bob Lamont. Again, he's been highly documented, but no one talks about this. This is the behind the scenes stuff. You're an agent. You represent the GM or you represent the executive vice president. You know the owner. You've got this client who's an up-and-coming guy, and I'm putting my GM and my up-and-coming guy together, and that's how this guy gets this job. And guess what? Guess who is not Eric Bieniemy's agent? You guessed it, Bob Lamont. So I'm just here to tell you that it's such a complex thing, but it makes the NFL look so bad because the Rooney Rule was put into place to say, look, we have got to understand that the numbers of qualified minority coaching candidates, they are out there. It's not just Eric Bieniemy. There's lots of other guys. I have a friend named Terrell Austin. This guy was the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions for years, and he was the hot guy at one time. Never got the head coaching job. You've never heard of him since. You know, it's a very complex issue, and it depends on what the team wants. And there's just no guarantee that because he's the hot guy or because he's the hot African-American guy that he automatically gets a job. It's not like that. You don't stand in line. Next. Charger job, no one's hired. Bieniemy's the guy. Next, he gets the job. It just doesn't work like that. And it's too bad. It's a shame, really, because Eric Bieniemy is just he's being used in this case as the example of what's wrong with all of this. And then, you know, listen, Jesse, let's play this for everybody. If you go to Dan Campbell yesterday, his press conference with the Detroit Lions has made America laugh out loud. I don't know what's funnier. Dan Campbell's press conference or all the pictures of Bernie Sanders. In fact, somebody should probably put a picture of Bernie Sanders at the Dan Campbell press conference. Here's what Dan Campbell said yesterday, new head coach to entertain America at his first press conference announcing his signing with the Detroit Lions. Go ahead and play it, Curtis.
All right, and so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth, all right, and when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you, and when you knock us down, we're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing, all right? That's going to be the mentality, all right? And we're going to learn that any loss that we take, we're going to make sure we feel the full pain of it and not go numb to it and learn from.
All right, there's Dan Campbell. Oh, my God. Kick him in the teeth. Bite him in the knees. Get back up fighting.
How many times do you have to go down before you get back up? Like, I mean, there's just sometimes you're just down for the count. You know, you can't win them all. Even the Patriots lost in the Super Bowl.
Bank that. Yeah, you bank that. And then you look at Brandon Staley, the guy who the Chargers hired, and I read an article today in USA Today where they called it a C-plus hiring. And they went through everything that you could imagine. You know, this guy's only had 1 year as defensive coordinator. And yeah, he had the number 1 defense with the Rams, but he also had the best players on defense, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he's a fresh-faced kid. I saw him at this press conference, and I went, oh, my God, has this kid been bar mitzvahed yet? Does this guy shave?
He makes you look at him, he makes you go, aw, shucks.
Right, and but you see the difference is Detroit went for the leader of men, tough guy, and the Chargers went for the young, fresh-faced, cerebral guy. And here's what Brandon Staley said when he spoke to the media. Take a listen to this kid.
I think that is probably the thing I'm most excited about, is that now I get to be an offensive coach for the first time, since, maybe calling some plays with my brothers in the backyard. I get to be an offensive coach now too. And what I mean by that is I want to share, all the knowledge that I have to help Justin, hopefully have a dual education. He's going to be getting this amazing education from our offensive coaching staff, but then there's this other education that hopefully I can give him to sort of shape and complete, his game as a player.
Yeah, what these guys want, what the Chargers wanted, then this is why, again, back to the whole story of Bieniemy, it's what do we want? What we want is what happened in Green Bay. They came and they poached the Rams staff. They took a young coach. They put him with an accomplished quarterback, and look at the Green Bay Packers. That's what you're looking for. That's what you're hoping for. Fresh-faced kid, just came from Sean McVay. We got him away. We poached him from the Rams. And by the way, make no mistake, right? Like, the Chargers don't exist in LA compared to the Rams. So let's just try and poach their coaching staff. Not that Rams fans are going to become Charger fans, but rather let's hurt the Rams and hope that the Rams aren't as good. And the Rams, I think, got a really great defensive coordinator in Raheem Morris. We'll find out what happens next year, but an accomplished coach. By the way, another African-American guy who's been a head coach in the NFL, been a coordinator, been an interim head coach, who's worthy of an interview and an opportunity. But this Rooney Rule thing is just not working. All right, coming up, final thoughts, not just for the night, but for the week. Stick around. It's Scott Kaplan on 710 ESPN.
Local sports radio from 7 to 10 p.m. This is the Scott Kaplan Show on 710 ESPN.
And the woman said to me, she goes, "Hey, are you the guy on the radio?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that makes me feel so like you're in my business."
The LA Sports Talk don't stop. Now back to Scott Kaplan.
Yeah, it's another one of those Hollywood nights here on 710 ESPN. Scott Kaplan on the radio and streaming live video on YouTube, our ESPN LA channel, on Twitch, on Facebook, and at ESPN Los Angeles on Twitter. Our live stream is presented by Puente Hills Toyota. Puente Hills Toyota is the house of yes. I got an entire crew of people that make this thing happen, dude. It doesn't just happen like this. You don't just flip on a microphone. I got Jesse the Body Lopez and Curtis Poindexter in downtown LA at the ESPN LA studios. I've got Janice Garcia in Whittier at her home. She's directing everything that's going on, all the videos. She's sending out all the tweets. She's crushing as usual. So it's a great team. And it's time for final thoughts. So here are my final thoughts tonight. AFC NFC championship game. Here goes. Okay. Everybody thinks it's the Packers and the Chiefs. I'm one of those guys who always thinks that we'll never get what we really want in sports. You know, we never got the Lakers and the Clippers in the conference finals. I mean, people thought that was destined to happen.
You wanted to go back. We never got LeBron versus Kobe either.
Right. That's right. Never got that. We've never really got Phil versus Tiger walking up the 18th at Augusta. Never really got that, you know? And by the way, I think this weekend, especially if it's as rainy as predicted, I think I'm going to take down this Tiger documentary on HBO. I thought it was a 10-part series. Don't know why, but it's only a 2-part series.
The Last Dance on your mind.
Yeah, and now I'm taking the whole thing down. And it's like, I think I was told it's almost 5 hours over 2 episodes, but I got to see this Tiger documentary now because from what I've been told, and last night, for those of you that were with us, my friend comedian Jason Lawhead was here, and he was telling the story about it. You think of Tiger Woods like Michael Jackson when you get done watching this thing because of the way his father robotically programmed him. And the troubles that happened in Tiger's life as a byproduct of what he had experienced as a kid. So I'm going to try and take it down this weekend. So back to this notion of we don't get what we want. I think what America wants, is Green Bay, Kansas City, because I think people like to hate on Tom Brady because he's been so good for so long.
Yep, I'm one of them.
Yeah. And I think people would like to see Aaron Rodgers get back, especially playing this NFC title game in Lambeau. So I think America wants Green Bay, and I think America loves Patrick Mahomes and wants to see Patrick Mahomes go up against Aaron Rodgers, two guys that, MVP finalists, I'm sure, and, two best quarterbacks right now. One guy's the older guy, one guy's the young gun. And by the way, these guys are in all these TV commercials together, for State Farm. So it would be really, really interesting, So then on the AFC side of things, man, Buffalo, I think Buffalo is primed for the upset. I think that when you look at how Buffalo responded to the way they lost to Arizona on the Hail Murray and have not lost a game since, I don't know why my gut is telling me take Buffalo. It's probably like just going out on a limb because nobody really is giving them much of a shot. So I'm going into the I'm going counter to what the masses think. I'm just putting it out there. I could be 0 for 2 on Monday night when we reconvene here at 7 p.m. But my final thought, I'm taking Tampa because I just can't not think that Brady gets a chance at the Super Bowl. I'm taking Tampa to win, and I'm taking Buffalo. I'm going out on a limb. I'm going both road dogs.
That would be something. I wouldn't mind if Buffalo wins. For the AFC, I can take either the Chiefs or the Bills. I have no preference. But for the NFC, I definitely want to see the Packers win. More along the lines of I really like Aaron Rodgers. I think he should definitely win another Super Bowl. And yeah, I'm tired of Tom Brady. Tom Brady, go play golf with Drew Brees.
I love Aaron Rodgers, and I love Tom Brady. I love both of these guys, so I'm happy with either or.
I've already accepted that Tom Brady's a GOAT, and that's as far as I'm going to go. You're GOAT, you're the best, whatever, but just let Aaron Rodgers win.
And by the way, you say go play golf with Drew Brees. I'm not even positive Drew Brees is retiring. I'm not sure yet.
I feel like he kind of is.
Hey,
we'll
Curtis, you got a final thought tonight, man?
Not really. Just everyone out there be nice to each other. Let's go with that.
How about this kid?
Be excellent to each other.
What a sweetheart. What an angel this kid is. You guys have rocked it this week. Seriously, the whole team. Jesse, Curtis, Janice, all the listeners, the sponsors, all the YouTubers, the Twitchers, tweeters, the Facebookers, the Sideders. Hey, listen, have a great weekend. Be safe, be healthy, and we'll see you guys on Monday night for the entire crew at 7:10. This is Scott Kaplan saying peace.